right, and we're live. Welcome to the show, Dustin.
Thanks for having me.
So, Dustin and I, we don't go back too far. Where did we meet? Like 6 months ago?
Yeah, right after your video.
I found you on our, I think it was Brotherhood of a Scroll, the Ranger Facebook page.
Was I talking shit?
You were saying, well, you're always talking shit on Facebook, but I don't remember what the context was, but you said, hey, I'm in Mukilteo. Is there any local Rangers? And I'm like, I'm fucking local. Let's hook up. And dude, that's pretty cool about like the regiment is that the community lives on after we ETS.
Sure.
And like, I don't know are you close with a lot of your Ranger buddies that you were in with?
Yeah, I'm actually, especially this year, I found I'm closer to my Ranger buddies I have now than I was with my Ranger buddies when I was in regiment because they're tried and true. And we don't need the regiment to be Ranger buddies, right? And so like my buddies I grew up in the barracks with or deployed with or went to schools with, we're close, but we all went our own way after the Army and some are still in. And then the dudes I've met after reaching out online, like you, some other guys in other cities around, they're crazy, but they're like the best Ranger buddies. Like they're down.
Yeah.
They're down dudes.
I don't know if you heard the episode I had my buddy Toby Folk on.
Yeah.
He's another local Ranger.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him the other day. We were hanging out. I was like, yeah, I met this dude named Dustin, who's a local Ranger. And he's like, what the fuck? You didn't invite me? He was offended. But it's interesting because talking to some of the SEALs that I'm friends with, like Andy Stump or Mitch Aguiar, who was on the show last week.
Yeah.
He said the SEAL community, while there's a lot of camaraderie and they're like real tight while they're in, he says it's pretty common that once guys or I don't know if it's ETS or whatever, but get out of the Navy, that their bond is not as tight. Like they don't stay in touch as well as they would like to. And I don't know, that's 2 SEALs out of all of them. So I don't know if that's a common theme or not.
Do they get treated like privates?
When they're new guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah. Actually, Mitch talked about that. He said he was the new guy. You know how it works. Like you go through RIP or you go through BUDS and you show up, and depending on needs of the Army or the Navy, they may not run another BUDS or another RIP for whatever amount of time.
Sure.
And so he said he caught the tail end of getting to his platoon. So he was the new guy for like over a year.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And there's no Ranger school for him to get out of that.
Yeah.
You just suck.
You know?
Suck.
And so, but anyways, I like to, when we start the show with a new guest, dude, just give a little background where you came from, what you did in the Army, all your cool guy stuff. Sure. And we'll just take it from there. We got a lot of shit to talk about.
Yeah. So I'm from Washington, like you. I was a fat kid in high school. I was super fat.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was 330 pounds at my heaviest that I remember. I got some cool pictures.
330.
330. Yeah, it's just a lazy piece of shit. I was a quitter. I quit football team.
Well, I mean, you're a big dude now, but you're like, what, 220?
Yeah.
Okay.
220, the 215 if I'm doing cardio.
Got it.
Yeah.
But an athletic 220 for you, those of you that are just listening.
Yeah, I look good. Yeah, so.
Quit football?
I quit football. I was like the funny fat kid in the friend zone with all the chicks. And
the zone you don't want to be in.
Zone you don't want to be in. Yeah. No, yeah, fact. And yeah, I lost a bunch of weight one day. I was 18, 19, somewhere in there. And just my parents moved to a house that had stairs in it all of a sudden. So I went from going to a 1-story house to a 2-story house. And I remember getting out of breath walking up the stairs. I was like, God, you're a piece of shit, man.
At 18?
At 18 to 19, yeah. Like I was so out of shape. And I had just gotten back. My band went on a tour that we lost a ton of money on. And so I was this like fat heavy metal drummer that just got back from Vegas, moved into my parents' new home. And I'm walking up the stairs with my bags, just sweating out liquor and burritos, like Hot Pockets. And actually, the night I remember the night I decided to lose weight. I was always up really late watching South Park on Comedy Central, and the Perfect Push-Up commercial came on. And I was like, I wonder if I can do a push-up. I couldn't.
Not one.
And I was like, you're a sad excuse for a man. So that was humbling. And so that next day I started hardcore Atkins diet. I was like I did cabbage soup, then Atkins. And then those weren't sustainable.
What do you mean? Is cabbage soup a thing, or you're just saying you just ate cabbage soup?
That's the cabbage soup diet. So they give it to open heart surgery patients that are waiting for extreme surgery but need to lose like 10 to 12 pounds before they can safely go under the knife.
Uh-huh.
And so you'll eat nothing but cabbage soup for a week, which is a negative calorie. So you're eating broth and cabbage and celery. These are all negative calories, and you can eat as much of it as you want, and it's disgusting and it sucks. And you eat cabbage soup, and then if you follow the diet, like on day 3, I think you can add a banana, so your body's getting some potassium. And day 4, you can add like 6 ounces of lean beef, so on and so forth. So I did the cabbage soup for 2 weeks nonstop, and I lost like 20-something pounds instantly. Not even walking, running, no cardio, just cabbage soup. And I lost it in my jowls, in my neck and my face. And as a young man, that was super motivating. I was like, oh, I look fucking good,
you see
man.
the change.
Dude, my dick got 4 inches bigger. I'm huge. Yeah. And so I was super motivated.
Wait, cabbage soup? Roger that.
Yeah. This is for our Rangers. But the cabbage soup diet, it's just not sustainable. So I went to Atkins because I read a lot about that being, longer, an easier one to sustain with similar results. And I just couldn't do 0 carbs, all meat. And I was eating like low quality meat then too. I wasn't eating grass-fed meat or organics. I didn't care about that shit.
Yeah, or didn't know about it.
Just Costco bulk meat, just slamming it down my gullet, but I was still losing weight. And that's when I started working out. And then eventually I kind of went to something that was similar to South Beach, where it was like really like just watching my carb intake, eating sweet potatoes, like whole grain rice and stuff. And I lost 120 pounds in less than a year. And I gained 120 pounds of ego from that, though. And then what's crazy
so now it's time to balance it out.
Oh, dude. So I was 20, and then I joined the military, and that gave me a ton of confidence because I've always been a quitter. So me signing up for a 4-year contract as an infantryman was like, here we fucking go. And my mom was an MP.
Okay.
So she was like, oh, you're going to be a grunt. You're going to, everyone, my dad was an MP. My mom was CID. Everyone was like, in my family experience, none of them were grunts, and their experience with grunts was we were dumb.
Because we knuckle draggers.
Yeah, that's what we are. And they go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, did you get option 40 to go into RIP from your recruiter, or did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he told me that if here's an option 40 contract, and he says, as long as you're a stud, there's no reason why they won't send you. He says, but if you're a dirtbag, like they'll probably change it in basic or something like that. I never had any issues, but, there was a nerd in my basic training class that almost killed him in the drill sergeant because he Sally armed a grenade at the grenade range.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, dude. The drill sergeant saved that dude's life. Like threw him over the barricade, jumped on top of him. It was baller. And so they gave that guy the option to take an option 40 contract afterwards because he was so shook up from almost dying from the grenade. They offered that soldier that Sally armed the hand grenade an airborne slot with the option of option 40 in my basic training.
Just because he fucked up in the grenade pit?
Just because he fucked up in the grenade pit.
Why? Was he having like some PTSD shit or something? I don't understand.
He was acting like a baby about it. And then
yeah. So let's take the guy that's fucking up and then acting like a baby.
Yeah. And send him to a regiment.
See if he wants to be a ranger.
Yeah. So drill sergeants make those decisions on behalf of the regiment. Yeah.
That's nuts, dude. So I guess I'm going to dive into a little bit of what option 40 is in case people are listening that aren't familiar. But when you go into the Army, when you want to be an infantryman, that's an 11 Bravo. That's the MOS to be an infantryman. And there's a lot of good infantrymen. I mean, that's what the 82nd, the 101st, 10th Mountain, like that's a pretty prestigious MOS in itself. But if you want to be an infantryman in the Ranger Regiment, then you have to request what's called option 40. And sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not. When I went in, it wasn't available. And I didn't know at the time, 17 years old, to fight for it, Oh.
Were you just a basic infantry contract?
Yeah. No, airborne infantry.
Oh, so you earned the RIP contract.
So I was slotted to go to the 82nd. And in airborne school, they said, hey, is there anyone that wants to volunteer for the regiment?
Yeah.
The guys come down from headquarters and they get everyone in a formation, said, hey, who wants to be a ranger? I raised my hand and they said, fall out, left face. And they took me on a death run. Back to the RIP barracks, and that's how it started. But if anyone's interested in being a ranger, I always recommend get the option 40 in your contract. I didn't do that because my recruiter told me, oh, you'll be able to do it while you're down there. And luckily it worked out for me. But for a lot of people, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I did that. Airborne was a joke, obviously. I had to do a death run, and they changed it to RASP. I was, I think, the second RASP class. So we're different generationally as well.
Yeah. Because when I went through RIP, it was so RIP is the Ranger Indoctrination Program, and it's a 3-week beatdown.
Oh yeah.
And then they changed it to 8 weeks. Yep. Lucky you.
Yeah, and so they changed it into 2 sections. So it turned into a 4-week beatdown and then 4 weeks of learning. And then it's changed since then too. So actually, if we were to even talk to a newer ranger, his RASP experience would be way different from mine, and mine would be way different from your RIP.
So what I was told, and obviously you'll be able to correct me if this is wrong or not. I was told the new RASP program, or at least the one you went through, is basically my RIP for 4 weeks out at Coal Range, log drills, the 6 mile ruck run, like all the pass fail events.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's 4 weeks of tactics because guys were showing up. I mean, you know how it is. You can show up to regiment and you might be deployed to Afghanistan in 2 weeks.
That was me.
Okay. Yeah. So the regiment had to take a step back and be like, we're sending dudes downrange.
Beat up.
That are beat up from RIP. And then also their tactical knowledge is basic training.
Fact.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I heard the additional 4 weeks was actually really good stuff, breaching and building charges.
Dude, I was building charges with C1. Like we were doing C1, layering on C2, doing push charges and press charges, and I'm 21.
As an E2, just out of boot camp.
Yeah, just a baby. Just blowing up doors on a Wednesday morning and
Dude, that's
suffering all day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was me. I did. So the first 4 weeks of RASP were just a suck fest, and I just felt so sorry for myself. But that was good because, once again, being the guy that always quit when I felt sorry for myself growing up, and now being this guy who kind of got off by feeling sorry for myself and getting over it, like that became a high for me.
What do you think changed? Was it just that moment when you went up the stairs and you realize like this is what failing looks like?
I watched pussies quit.
Yeah.
And I empathized with them because I was that dude.
Uh-huh.
And so I watched these dudes quit in front of these men. Just even in infantry basic training. We had a guy that pretended to sleepwalk so he could get out of basic training so he could go home and fuck his, minor girlfriend.
I remember all that shit
just a
too,
clown, man.
So I remember when guys quit, and I've heard a lot of guys share this sentiment with me. Dude, it feels like you're in a video game and you're taking their power. Did you ever get that? Or did you feel bad for them?
No.
Oh, okay. You sucked their energy too?
I was like, oh, good.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And there's something powerful about standing in a formation. I've told the story on this podcast before, so I'll just recap it. But we did a log drill where every squad out at Coal Range holding a log over your head until 2 people quit. And the cadre goes, it can be 3 minutes, 3 hours, or 3 days. Logs don't touch the ground until we have 2 quitters. And guess what? A few hours later, we had a couple quitters. And I remember thinking like, fuck those guys.
Yeah,
you know?
It turns me on just hearing that story.
Dude. Like, and you do. Like when they give up, it fucking fuels you for whatever reason.
Because you're stronger than them.
You realize like, all right, good. We cut some of our dead weight.
Yeah.
And, people have to realize those drills are designed to get people out or never allow people in, I should say, that have quitting as an option.
And people fall through the cracks.
Of course they do. Even in CAG selection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know dirtbags that made it to CAG from a regiment. I'm like, they're probably good now.
There's the 10% rule. That's what they say in the Army, is that no matter what unit you're in, no matter how hard the selection is or how long the pipeline is, 10% of the guys there probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah, 10%'s fair.
So, who knows? That's a rough estimate, but just thinking about my platoon,
sure,
that's probably
10%,
give or take.
There's times where I was a dirtbag too, though. I mean, I'm not.
No, of course,
I'm not on all the time.
Yeah.
I just never got caught being a dirtbag.
So then you went through RIP, and
so the first 4 weeks was cool, man, and it was good for me because that I absorbed that power, and when the log got heavier, the people that were holding it were stronger. And so I really liked that mentality, and I loved sucking. And I just started laughing at the bullshit they'd make us do. Like, I remember it was Coal Range, like 4 a.m. We hadn't slept, and like we're just sitting there getting smoked in formation. And then they're like, okay, you guys need to shave because you have to start land nav when the sun comes up. And they're like, but you can't stop getting smoked, so we're gonna smoke you until your face is wet enough to shave, so you don't have to dry shave.
Yeah.
And
thank you for looking out.
So we're holding a razor in one hand and doing like front back goes and doing all this, and I'm just like, this is where I need to be. Like, they're just beating me.
What year was this again?
This was 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. And so RASP was miserable. Physically, the most challenging thing I did. Mentally, I wasn't gonna quit. I'd made it so far. I'd said goodbye to my girlfriend already. I didn't write letters. I tried not to call home. I was like, I just got to get back to Fort Lewis. That was my goal. I got to go to 275.
Yeah.
And actually, like things I think about now, I was telling you earlier, I've learned more from my military experience and training since getting out of the military than I did while I was in, because as I grow up and I think back and I look at things, hindsight being 2020, it's like, oh, that makes sense. That was a leadership. That was leadership training. That was teaching me how to be a leader. Whereas before I thought that guy's an asshole. What's he teaching me?
Yeah.
You know, but,
no, that's an interesting perspective because you don't hear people verbalize that very often,
sure.
But nothing could be further from the truth. Like I feel at 40 years old, a lot of the life lessons through my 20s and 30s are all starting to kind of come together and paint more of a clear picture of what they meant and what that means for me as a man. And it's interesting to hear you verbalize that.
So you've had the same experience?
Oh, for sure. You know, me and my other Ranger buddy, Toby, that I was just talking about, we were literally just saying last week, like, I think 40 is probably the pinnacle of being an operator. And I'm not saying I'm an operator, but I'm just thinking of like tactical knowledge, leadership capabilities, able to really understand team dynamics, your growth as a man, but then also you're still in your physical prime, or I'm probably a few years behind my physical prime. I'm not there anymore, but I'm not so far down that I couldn't still go run ops, you know? So we were saying like, I bet the best military leaderships and operators are probably 35 to 40.
Yeah. I would be a much better leader now than I was 5 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with that.
I've actually, I've called and talked to team leaders that worked under me, because I've told them shit when I was a 20-year-old squad leader. That's not true. Like I was like, don't have kids. That's fucking stupid. Like that's the dumbest thing you can do. And then I've literally talked to them since then and said, having a kid changed me as a man and made me a much better person. Like if you get the opportunity, like keep that kid, you know, teach their own. But it's like, I've had to make those steps because, a little bit more about my career. So after I did my time in regiment at 275, I went and worked at 5th Ranger Training Battalion in Dahlonega up in the mountain phase of Ranger School.
How long were you at second bat before you went to RTB?
I did my whole first contract there. I did my second extension, my second contract at RTB.
Okay.
And then I knocked up Juliet and I was like, I got to get out.
So you did 8 years then? 4 years back to back?
7.5.
7.5.
Yeah. But yeah, 7.5 to 8. Yeah.
Got it.
Sometime I got out early. I saved all my leave up and got out months early.
Oh, nice.
Which was nice. Yeah.
No, it's interesting to hear you say that because I was in Iraq when I found out Jenny was pregnant. She sent me a Yahoo Messenger picture, you know, and it was an accident. So we had just got married, and then I deployed.
Yeah.
But I was up in northern Iraq in Erbil, which is, I hesitate to even call it a deployment. Because you can literally go to the mall, you can go to the racetrack and drive go-karts and
Sounds
stuff.
like Kandahar.
Yeah,
Same
dude.
fucking thing. Yeah.
It's real chill up there, but still, it was just a moment in time when it became clear to me, it's time to put this shit behind you. And I know a lot of dudes raise families as soldiers and as operators, and good on them, but that wasn't for me, man. Like, not only are you not there physically and present to be part of that kid's life, but the thought of me getting whacked and then some other guy trying to fill my shoes, that was like literally haunting to me.
It makes you want to kill that other guy.
Yeah. And the funny thing is like, I painted this picture in my mind. It's like some fucking piece of shit is going to fucking move in on my woman and
Someone
my kid.
from the 82nd, bro. One of your battle buddies that you were supposed to make.
And so, you know, like I was like, you know what? If I'm doing the family thing, then you got to do the family thing.
100%.
And that doesn't mean being on the other side of the world for 9 months out of the year. And that was what moved me outside of the deploying life and came home and sought a career in law enforcement, which we all know how that went.
You did the right thing. Yeah, man, my family, I just thought the same thing. My daughter's going to need me way more than the fucking Army does.
And so literally right before you knocked up Juliet, you were thinking about re-enlisting and
I wanted to do the long walk.
yeah,
that was my goal. And I wouldn't, physically I was there. I was rucking every day and we were living in Dahlonega. So it was like, everything's a mountain out there. Even the streets, like you're running up and down the streets and sidewalks, it's mountainous.
Yeah.
It's in the foothills. And I was running every day. I was getting hernias from rucking so much. It was bad.
A lot of dudes use their time in RTB to get ready for selection, right? Is that kind of a common thing?
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of time there. So if you're walking, if you're a Ranger instructor and you're walking, you're pretty much day on, day off, except for when there's not a school cycle in. And so people are training, recovering, working, training, recovering, and working. The driven ones. There's also, I mean, RTB blew my mind because I thought everyone from regiment was the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in regiment, and when you grow up somewhere and that's home, that's the original gang. And then I wasn't kicked out of regiment. Most people that leave regiment are either kicked out or they get out of the Army, but not a lot of people just choose to leave to go to another unit. And that's Abrams' charter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to go do some time in other units. And I didn't do it for that reason, but I learned how important Abrams' charter was when I got to 5th RTB.
And so just to unpack that a little bit,
Sure.
Abrams' charter, like the original idea of Rangers was to have guys part of a unit that is highly specialized, that gets better training than the rest of the Army. And then you cycle back through into leadership positions in regular Army units, and you bring that higher level of leadership and that higher level of training. And it's going to overall make the Army a better organization.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the big picture. And I got to regiment as an E5. I just finished a deployment as a team leader for the first time at 275.
Wait, what do you mean you got to regiment as an E5?
Not regiment. I'm sorry, 5th RTB.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was an E5 at 275, and I just finished my last deployment as a fire team leader. It was a really lame deployment. But I got out of regiment and I went to 5th RTB to go work in the mountains. And I was a cocky E5. Like I said, when I lost 130 pounds, I gained 130 pounds of ego. When I got a Ranger scroll, a Ranger tab, 3-4 deployments under my belt,
yeah, you were
a
shit,
CIB,
dude.
You could suck my dick if you're someone's grandma. I didn't care. Like, I was so arrogant.
Yeah.
I was a piece of shit. And so I got to 5th.
I wouldn't say piece of shit, man. Like there is a.
I don't think I am now, but I mean,
No, but I mean, like, there's a journey that every young man walks, and it's like it's constantly having to balance it, because on one side of it, you're doing cool shit. You're fucking working hard. You're in shape. You've surrounded yourself with good people. Like, of course that's going to make you feel good, make you feel powerful. Like, I always joke, like, when I was living in Los Angeles, the gang culture down there, right? Like, everyone's kind of taken aback, like, oh, these young kids are in gangs. I'm like, I went into a gang too.
100%.
You know, the only difference between their gang and my gang is that mine was recognized as a good thing by the government. Yeah. But let's face it, you go in there to fight, fuck dudes up, deploy, shoot guns. Like, it's a wild life.
Did you do the grog at the end of the infantry basic training? Where you drank the grog at the end of the 12-miler?
Yeah, I forgot all about that. But that's right.
I did the grog, and we had this Hispanic drill sergeant. His name was super cliche too. It was like Lopez, you know. So he comes in, he's, just perfect shave, like perfect fade. The exact drill sergeant you would expect, with just a little bit of the South LA accent, East LA accent. He comes up right after the grog ceremony. We're all smoked from the 12 mile. I remember that guy punched me right in the chest. He goes, "Welcome to the biggest gang in the world." And I was like, holy shit, he's not wrong.
Yeah, I'm here.
That's funny you say that. Yeah.
But no, so it's hard to balance ego when you're a young man and you feel like you are on the right path. Sure. You are doing the right things. You're surrounding yourself with the right people. But it's also easy to get sucked too far, because as soon as you think you're the shit, guess what? You're not.
Yeah, you're
and the baddest dudes on the planet, rarely do you see them fucking like exuding ego
at all.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just cool as a cucumber. And when it's game time, they're fucking murdering motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Humbly. Humbly slain, dude.
That's right, dude.
Yeah, with a smile. But yeah, so well, we won't say piece of shit, but I was definitely, I had surpassed arrogance, and I would say when I got to 5th RTB, I was cocky. And I was this cocky E5, and I was working with all these dudes who they just got their 6. So they were like E6s with Ranger tabs from the 101st. And because they have their Ranger tab and their contract was up, they're like, you're going to Ranger school as an enlisted Ranger. Like any NCO with a tab is going to go to Ranger school unless they're in regiment or SF or something like that.
And so the regular Army, I mean, part of if you're going to stay in the Army, you have to do a tour as an instructor somewhere.
Yeah. You have to help teach what you've learned.
Yeah. So that's a normal progression.
That's an amazing thing, though, that I've come across in hindsight is I don't become a subject matter expert until I have to teach people something.
Absolutely. I talk about that in jiu-jitsu all the time.
So good on the Army. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of leadership qualities that I've just been diving into since getting out. And that's one of them, is teaching. But, yeah, I was arrogant. I was cocky. I was an E5, but I was training my ass off. I promoted. I was a squad leader. I had a bunch of dudes. We would actually get a lot of guys who failed airborne school, privates that would fail airborne school, and they'd send them to Ranger school to be to be the opposition force. And so these little soldiers are like I called it the island of misfit toys.
So they fail airborne school. So now their airborne contract is void. Yes. They're not going to 82nd.
No, they go to needs of the Army, and Ranger school says, we'll take them.
So does that mean that's their whole enlistment?
A lot of dudes join the Army, fail airborne school, come to 5th RTB as a private, live in the barracks for 4 years in Dahlonega, get smoked every day by a cocky E5 like me who calls them a piece of shit, and then they get out with 100% disability and PTSD.
Dang, dude.
I swear to God.
I had no idea that was... So, I mean, that's basically... That's almost an MOS, huh?
It's an MOS. More or less. They're infantrymen.
Yeah.
But what's cool is by the time... So there was some other regiment dudes that were in charge of this island of misfit toys as well. So, like, we had other dudes from regiment that were... higher up in the rank structure and that were platoon sergeants and stuff. So the leadership of these misfit soldiers ended up being really good. By the time I left 5th RTB, like these dudes were like 90% airborne qualified. They were getting jumps with RIs every day.
Oh, so you'd get them trained up and send them back down to Benning, huh?
All my team leaders were tabbed, and one of them's in 275 in ACO where I came from right now.
Nice.
Crushing dudes as a goose team leader. He just got back from a deployment.
Yeah. How cool is that, man?
That is like proud daddy moment, right?
Yeah.
Because I think back and I say things like, oh, I was arrogant or I was a piece of shit. But then I look back and I'm like, well, all my guys that were directly under me when I was in charge of them are kicking ass right now.
Yeah, so
that makes me
the proof is in the pudding, right?
It can be, yeah. I also have guys that got out that are turds, but
yeah,
you can plant seeds, you can't make them grow.
Very true, man.
So yeah, that was kind of like in a nutshell. Going from the badass 275 stuff, I humbled myself. I learned that I didn't care where people came from in the military. There were a lot of good dudes from the 101st, 87th.
Very true. Yeah.
And then going back full circle to what you were talking about, the train up at 5th RTB, there's a dude that works there. He's a civilian. He's retired. This guy's won Best Ranger, I think twice. He was in CAG. And he still is, he flies back and forth between 5th RTB and the Long Walk, and he's an advisor, and he makes a ton of money. And so he works at the camp as like the safety coordinator.
Yeah.
And he has his own office right next to Sergeant Major's office. But he has all the train up for the Long Walk. He has a star course in the mountains. So I'd go up on my birthday and I'd be like, hey, can I get the star course? And he'd give me this course in the mountains, and I would try to do like 3 out of the 5 points in a 24-hour period just on my birthday, just to go suffer and suck a little bit.
Happy birthday to me.
Right. But it was nice. I was on my first divorce, and we hadn't divorced yet. And so I would just go spend 24 hours alone in the woods.
I didn't even know you had a first divorce.
A practice wife.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a practice wife, and I married the chick that was she was the hot girl I went to high school with, and I was the fat funny kid. And then I was on a deployment, and she had messaged me, and she's like, are you the same Dustin that used to be the fat funny kid in high school? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, you're hot now. I was like, we should get married.
Yeah.
That's the best thing we could do, because I'm a corporal, and I want to get out of the barracks.
I was just going to say, a young enlisted guy
yeah.
who doesn't think getting married is a good idea.
Fucking idiot. So,
bro, that was almost me. I mean, my high school girlfriend, we were together for a long time. And if I had gotten stationed at Benning or Savannah, the plan was for her to come with me. And if you know anything about the Army, it is impossible to support somebody if you're not married.
Yeah.
It's just impossible.
It's good.
You know what I mean? And then I got stationed at 275, which she lived up here. So we didn't have to go that route.
Sure.
It's crazy to think how different my fucking life would be.
You didn't have to get married.
Yeah, I didn't have to get married.
You know? That's where I was at too. I actually told, if they're listening, yes, piece of shit. I lied at the end of RASP. I have to admit when I lied because they said, where do you want to go? Like, what's your wish list? 175, 275, 375. Put it in order. And why? And I wrote 275. My girlfriend's pregnant.
Guess what? It worked.
It worked.
Well, here's the thing. In the Army, I mean, I'm not advocating being dishonest, but there's only one person that's going to look out for you.
That's it.
You know?
Oh, that's a funny story too.
And so, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And it worked out.
So my first day at regiment, I finish RASP. And I get to regiment, and you get to Fort Lewis, and there's like, you know, the big Army takes you onto Fort Lewis.
Do they send you into 525 still in processing battalion?
Which was just a joke.
Nightmare.
Oh, but what's funny is, so there was like, 6 or 8 of us, and they didn't send a lot of dudes to 275 because those guys were on leave getting ready to deploy.
Got it.
So like out of the RASP class, I think less than a third of us that started day 0 graduated without recycle, and then like 6 or 7 of us made it to 275. And I think the majority of us all admitted to lying to get to 275. Because why would they send us there if they're getting ready to deploy?
Yeah.
That's not a good investment. But they send us there, and I'm at 525, and then a staff duty van pulls up, and 2 guys with like full chews in their mouth, you know, perfect berets, like the sexiest berets I've ever seen, jump out, and they just walk into 525 and start smoking the dog piss out of us in front of all the other soldiers that just got to Fort Lewis. And what's funny is we had been those arrogant guys with the tan berets in front of all of our peers here at Fort Lewis.
Yeah, you're the badasses
of
right?
that group,
Yeah.
but there's always a bigger fish. and here comes a corporal and a brand new E6 that are on staff duty who aren't deploying,
Yeah.
which I know now in hindsight.
And they're tabbed.
And they came and just messed our world up and just took our arrogance and shook it down. But they, one of them told me something that you just hit, and he said, regiment is a thirsty, tired man walking in the desert, and you're a towel with a drop of water on it, and he's going to wring it out and get every last drop of water out of you. And he was so theatrical when he did it. And I'm just like, this guy's bitter.
Yeah.
And he ended up making me do Noble Hill and smoke the shit out of me all night. But,
Fucking Noble Hill.
but yeah, I got there.
I drove my Bronco up Noble Hill.
Did you really?
I did. Right up that, right across from the motor pool,
Yeah.
that steep face.
Oh, yeah.
Just fucking,
No shit.
Yeah.
That's epic.
it was epic, dude.
It's fenced off because of people like you now. You can get a truck up there, but you have to have the gate code.
Oh, this was 2000. No gate codes. We could do whatever we wanted.
That's fucking awesome.
Dude, Fort Lewis was an open fucking post when I got there.
It still is. They have gates, but
Yeah.
dude, I remember a squad leader took us on a ruck and we got lost. So we literally hopped barbed wire on the backside of Fort Lewis. It's the first time I ever jumped a barbed wire fence. I was like, man, Rangers are badass. Like, that wasn't even hard.
Did you use the lowest ranking private to body breach the concertina wire?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's actually a ranger tactic. Is that like lowest ranking man on the totem pole will just do a belly flop on the concertina wire and everyone runs right over the top of them.
Sucks to suck. Yeah. Do more push-ups, get more rank, dude.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Yeah. But I deployed, dude. I got there, everyone was on leave, and then I deployed 2.5 weeks later, my first deployment.
And where do you deploy to?
Straight to Afghanistan, Sharona.
Okay.
Yeah, so like that's Paktia, right? Yeah, up on the eastern side.
I'm not familiar with
My
that area.
geography of Afghanistan's not that great, to be honest with you.
My geography of Afghanistan includes Bagram, Kandahar,
Yep.
Asadabad, Barikaut. And that's it,
What was
dude.
the last one?
Barikaut.
Where's that?
It's north of Asadabad on the Kunar River.
Oh.
You're from Asadabad, you follow the Kunar River north, and it's way up there, right on the border of Pakistan.
Oh, so it's a shithole.
It's a shithole.
Yeah,
and we
for
lived out
sure.
there for 6 months. But looking back on all
Is that
my
the
deployments,
KG Pass?
I don't know. I've never heard that it references the KG Pass. It's just like the valley of the Hindu Kush. But dude, looking back on that deployment, it's probably my favorite deployment, and I never even fired my rifle one time.
Really?
No, it was dry. Every fucking hit we would do was a dry hole, and we'd be getting bad intel.
That recon? Yeah.
And then we would there was nights when we had the orange guys out there, the SIGINT special operations dudes.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, we got intel coming in. There's a Chechnyan force.
Of course.
That's going to move through Barikaut at this time.
Were they coming through Pakistan and you were
Yes.
stopping them?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
And so, yeah, right above Barikaut, it was either now I'm messing my geography up, but there's like Dokalam and Nare, these little villages that were literally on the border.
Yeah.
And to the villagers, Afghani, Pakistani, they don't even know the difference. This is just where I live out in the mountains. But you're right. That's where the Taliban was using as an entry and exit point because they started to understand how the game was played. If they're in Pakistan, it's kind of hands off, right?
It's not your jurisdiction.
And so we would get intel. All right, this an element of whatever is going to be moving through. We set in Ranger school ambushes, straight up claymores.
That's badass.
Like,
though.
dude, it was.
I want to do that.
Well, I wanted to do that too, and we did. Except when we would do it, no one would ever show up, and it's like, fuck, dude. Like, I just want to be a ranger one night out here.
I want to be a real ranger
You know?
one day.
Can you imagine clacking off a Ranger school ambush with a claymore?
I want to clack off a real claymore.
Yeah, you know.
Things I've never done.
And so, I mean, there was like an IED attack, a handful of rockets, but other than that, the deployment was real quiet.
Yeah.
But we stayed busy though. And so my PL at the time, his name was Lieutenant Satterland. He actually just got his full bird like a month ago.
For him.
And he was also E1 through E5 before he went to, so
even better for him.
Fucking stud, right?
Of course he's a full bird.
Yeah.
Good for him.
And so he was like, hey guys, listen, we're fucking Rangers and Rangers are going to work.
You're ACO?
Yeah. Yep. ACO 275. We're 3rd platoon.
Earth pig?
Earth pigs.
Gross.
And so he would, he's like, we're going to have 2 squads out patrolling every single day.
Sick.
Some of them were mounted. Some of them were on foot. Like,
was it like movement to contact? Just looking for a
not
fight?
even. Yeah, you could call it that. More just, more just fucking presence patrols.
Good.
Like going through the villages, collecting intel.
Daytime.
Yeah,
Sick.
day and night.
Mounted daytime.
And dude, he would let us.
That.
This was fucking crazy, dude. I mean, I was at E5. Like I was a team leader, not even a squad leader, and I could literally be like, "Hey, sir, you see that peak up there?" And it's like 3 clicks away, 5,000 feet of elevation gain. I want to set a patrol base in there. And he's like, all right, get your SATCOMs up at this time and do a check and have fun. And bro,
that's why it was your favorite deployment.
Dude, it's to this day, like my buddies that were in that platoon that are now with the unit, they said they've never had that kind of autonomy other than that deployment. Like we would literally go down to the Kunar River. I would build shape charges and set them underwater and shoot the shape charge across the river. And then all these fish would float up. Yeah. Little Afghan kids would go out there and collect all the fish and fry them for us. We did fucking patrols on horseback.
Shut up.
Dude, it was fucking
shirtless.
Yeah, dude.
Like Putin.
Bro, that's funny. It's actually funny you say that. Like we fucking got to this area of the river that was like pretty remote. And I was like, dude, we're going to do 50% security and we're going to let the guys fucking take a swim.
Yeah.
And I remember one of them had like kind of a sunburn when we got back. Platoon sergeant's like, what the fuck is this?
Why are your nipples red? Why are you looking at my nipples?
Yeah. But
Rangers.
Yeah, we were free to kind of do whatever we wanted. Killing goats. Yeah. We would buy goats from goat herders.
Yeah.
And actually, the Afghan would slaughter them and butcher them right there. Yeah. We'd cook them up on the mountainside because, you can only live on MREs for so long.
Gross. Yeah.
And so, yeah, looking back on it, like that was, even though there wasn't any contact, we didn't kill any bad guys.
Sure.
It was just fun.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so, yeah, what was your first deployment to Afghanistan like?
My first deployment was, I was drinking from a fire hose. I've learned so much from my first deployment, like I said now, than I did as a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Specialist without a tab. So I got to regiment. I deployed 2.5 weeks later. My first team leader, I was in 3rd platoon. Or no, I'm sorry, 1st platoon,
bad mother.
3rd squad. I was a bad mother. I got a bad mother flag in my car. I carry with me everywhere. But my team leaders, I had an Alpha and Bravo team leader, and they were like Pinky in the Brain, pretty much. Like one Walker, he's brilliant. He's like an engineer, and he's working on changing the molecular density of water in Chicago right now. He's just a smart ranger. And then Josh, he was the strong ranger. And this guy is like this stunning tanned corn-fed boy from Ohio that could deadlift your mom in a Volkswagen, and he's just beautiful and tan. And so I had the best of both worlds because Walker would give us, all the classes we need and he could break everything down. And Josh was just like this Greek god looking thing that all the privates looked up to. So I had great team leaders.
That's badass.
And then I had a really good squad leader who was just like the most down to earth dude. And he treated us all like kids, like his kids.
Good, man. That's the kind of leadership that I appreciate.
He was a dad and he took what he learned as a dad into leadership.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And it's also, I don't think I've ever articulated this or even thought of it, but when you have an Alpha and a Bravo team leader that mesh well, that's a game changer.
It's a huge game changer because I've been a team leader and we've had conflict between me and the other team leader. And it's like, I just remember doing glass house drills and I'm like, no, you're absolutely not going to do that. And he's like, no, you're going to do it this way. And I was like, we got to talk offline.
Yeah.
We can't do this.
And you can't have any kind of conflict in front of the privates or you lose that continuity.
And looking at it back now, I'm like, that was just an ego fight.
Yeah.
But
no, an interesting leadership lesson that I learned was, so our 2 team leaders, when I got there as a private, were both raised in regiment, right? Our squad leader came from, I believe it was 101st, and he went through ROPE.
Which rope doesn't exist in.
Ranger Orientation phase.
Is that RIP for NCOs?
Yes.
Okay, that's RASP 2 now.
Got it. Okay. And so he was an import as a squad leader.
Did they send officers to rope too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And immediately, I mean, if you're not raised in battalion and you come there and take a squad,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem.
You didn't grow up here.
But I was a private at the time. I didn't realize that. And so, I mean, he was a squad leader for a year or two. And then he went to Vincenza, 173rd, because he's a lifer. He wanted to go all over the place. He wanted to check the regiment box and then move on, which good on him. Like, you do you, right?
Yeah.
But once he left, one of the team leaders said something. He's like, yeah, that motherfucker or whatever. And I was like, and by this time, I think I was a TAP Spec 4. And I was like, what do you mean that motherfucker? And he goes, oh, both team leaders in the squad despise that guy.
Really?
We fucking hated him. He came here with bad tactics. He came here with he came from just a regular infantry unit, but thought that he was like going to show everybody what's up. Right.
Is this the first time you'd heard them talk about him like
yes,
that?
Yeah.
Good on them.
And no. And that's what I said. That's the whole point of the story. I was like, I'm kind of confused right now. Like, I thought you guys got along great. Our squad's fucking awesome. He goes, all the problems that I had with the squad leader stayed in the fucking squad or the NCO room.
Roger that.
He goes, we didn't let the privates see that. We have nothing to gain and a lot to lose if the privates understand there's like discontent within the squad.
Yeah, and the leadership structure.
Yeah, dude. And so it was a good, like, fucking A, man. Keep your shit rolls downhill. So if you start projecting that in a manner where the privates see that,
sure,
good luck, you know?
That's good, man. That's good. So leadership, you were talking about autonomy in your first deployment. And that just makes me think of accountability, leadership, organizational structures and stuff. And that's a problem I'm seeing now that we're out, is a lack of leadership in our world, a lack of accountability, and a lack of good organizational structures.
Bro, that is the foundational problem that we have with law enforcement, in my opinion.
Leadership?
Yeah.
100%.
Lack of leadership, lack of accountability, and then just the lack of courage.
Sure.
Like, you need all those things to be capable, functional, operational element. And that can be fucking war fighters, or that can be police officers serving their community. But dude, it doesn't exist anymore.
No.
You know, this is a good segue because I received a message yesterday from a guy, and it was in regard to, I posted something about the LA Sheriff's Office, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office was busting New Year's Eve parties.
Get fucked.
Did you see that?
No.
Dude, and they named themselves the Super Spreader Task Force.
Get fucked.
Get fucked, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to these parties.
My Claymore.
And they're fucking pulling people out. And a buddy of mine was actually at a house or at a party that got raided. And he said they kicked the door in SWAT gear.
Did anyone get shot?
No, nobody got shot. They unplugged. They cut the power to the place because he said we had a DJ and people were dancing and shit. They cut the power. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
That's a raid.
Yeah.
On an American citizen's house.
Exactly, dude. And so I posted something. I said, to all these fucking cops, like, you know what? I'm just going to read it on the air real quick.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
it's just crazy to think like that's where we're at on stuff.
While you're looking it up, I have a quick question. Have you heard of these channels on YouTube called First Amendment audits? I'm sure as a police officer, you dealt with this.
No, I'm not.
So
First Amendment audits.
It's amazing, man. And it sucks because, you know, typically conservative folks like to be these flag waving, chest beating apes, and that's cool. I'm a hardcore patriot. I'm a hardcore constitutionalist patriot. And what these First Amendment audit channels do is they go to a building like Seattle City Light, and they have a camera phone on a gimbal on a stick, and they're just recording. And then the woman at Seattle City Light says, "You can't record in here." She's like, "Actually, this is public. This is a public building. I can. It's a First Amendment."
Okay. Right? Yeah.
So then the first thing that woman does is when she wants to infringe on your First Amendment right to record, the first person she thinks to call is
the police.
The police.
Yeah.
So Seattle police show up and they're like, "You can't record in here." So actually I can. You. So cops like to always use this line. I don't want to paint with a broad brush. I made myself an asshole the other day painting with a broad brush, and a cop corrected me, and I had to eat humble pie and apologize to his face.
Mm-hmm.
But the police officers, I've heard a lot of them use this line of, "Your ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking it." And what I see a lot when I'm watching these First Amendment audits is they think that because this woman is afraid and they don't want them to record in there, they can just say, you can't record here.
Yeah.
But these people, these First Amendment auditors are finding, they're doing the research, and they know that what they're doing is legal, and it's almost baiting. It's almost like they're saying, I'm going to go do something that's legal that makes people uncomfortable. So then law enforcement is put in the position of either infringing on my rights or not, and it's all going to be recorded.
Well, then that's where cops need to be careful, because I've seen this happen when I was a police officer.
Okay.
I'd never heard the term First Amendment audit, but as soon as you described, I was like, oh yeah, I've dealt with that.
Oh, and you've dealt with it.
Yeah. And the thing is, what you have to remember, as soon as you say, hey, turn that camera off, now you just gave an order.
Yeah.
And is it lawful? Because if it's not lawful, now you're an asshole. And not only are you an asshole, if the person says, I don't want to fucking turn it off, you have to be like, They
double down every time.
Damn. Because if you, for whatever reason, as the police officer, maybe trying to diffuse the situation, or you feel like, maybe they shouldn't be recording here, but I'm not quite sure, then approach it as a social contact. Be like, hey, sir, you have a right to be here. You have a right to be doing what you're doing, but some employees are kind of freaked out based on your behavior, and put it to them as a question. Would you be willing to?
Yeah.
Because then you're coming at them at a slightly different angle, But a good thing to think about, something that I was taught in the academy, they call it right to be, right to see. Okay.
Okay.
So if where my feet are planted on planet Earth, if I have a legal right to be standing there, I can see and look into whatever I want, and I can record whatever I want.
Sure.
So if I'm on a public sidewalk where I have a right to be, that means I have a right to see. So if I can look through your
police gate at the cars.
Yeah. Or if
That's a big one.
Or if I want to look through into somebody's house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't tell me that I can't be standing on a sidewalk looking at whatever I want to look at. But now, everything's nuanced, right? You, just like you said, you don't want to paint stuff with a broad brush, because if a guy's standing on my sidewalk and right in front of my house here, and he's just standing there all day looking through my daughter's window, trying to get a glimpse of him when they walk by. Okay, well, this is something that needs to be addressed, right?
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to, because if they're there legally, what options do you have? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I've seen a lot of cops get hemmed up on that, and then it becomes a big dick contest. Well, put that fucking camera away. Well, I actually don't have to. So now where do we go?
What I've noticed, and I don't want to hit on this too long, is what they'll do is they'll double down. So they'll make that statement, that command, that authority. They'll take that authority and make a command. And then if the person responds with, no, I'm not putting it down, then they're going to say, well, now I'm going to detain you because you're being suspicious, and I'm going to put you under investigation for your suspicion. And they start trying to walk around non-existent laws for ego, or just to double down and say, you're going to do what I said, pretty much. And then sometimes they don't. A lot of times they're like, oh, I know what this guy's doing. And they're like, hey, man, have a great day.
Exactly. And that's probably the best approach.
100%. But,
and so to circle back around to what I wrote.
Yeah.
It was a picture, and see, that's all the people being walked out. See all the people being walked out of this club?
That's the party.
That's a party. Oh, and you see, what do we see? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see 6 sheriffs standing there with helmets on and vests.
Yeah. What are they paying them to do that?
Yeah. And we're talking about Los Angeles, fucking shithole. You know how much crime and bullshit is going on there? And you got 6 officers that raided a party and are walking these people out. And so I wrote below it, I said, I can't believe this is the profession that I was a part of. The amount of mindlessness and obeying corruption is astonishing. I'd hoped to see more out of you patrol level officers, but it seems like most of you have weak hearts and are unable to stand behind your oaths. Are any of you going to denounce this shit, or will you just continue to violate people's rights for a paycheck? And so I got a message yesterday, and it's a dude on Instagram that I've been messaging back and forth. He's a deputy. He's a cool guy, right? Yeah. And he goes, hey man, I feel like you're coming down real hard on cops. And he goes, you got to remember, most cops are good guys. And I said, I agree. And so I felt like I may have been painting the profession with a broad brush, right? And that was kind of his approach to how he was talking to me, because he's like, you have a platform now, I don't want to use this platform to tarnish police officers or make the profession out to be shitheads, because they're getting enough of that right now.
Yeah.
But this is what I told him. I said, being a good guy is cool, right? I want my neighbor to be a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I can barbecue with him. I want the people that stock the shelves at Target to be good people, right? But when you take an oath to defend your community against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and uphold the constitutional rights of our citizens, when you raise your right hand and you swear that you're going to do that, and then your paycheck that is being given to you every 2 weeks that paycheck is for you to defend the citizens, right? That's why you are getting paid.
And it's good money.
It's good money. And then you just sit back and don't say anything because it's convenient to do so.
Well, there's slaves to that good money.
That's
too.
what I'm saying.
Slaves
You
to the
don't
paycheck.
get, in my opinion, every police officer in the nation should be denouncing that. Should be standing up and saying, this isn't what we do. This isn't what we get paid for. And we are 100% unwilling to violate people's constitutional rights.
Yeah.
Period. It's not up for debate. And the reason that it's been getting me so fired up all the way back until when I made my video, every cop I know agrees with where I stand. I'm like,
Privately.
yeah, privately, 100% of them. I have yet to meet the cop that's like, no, we should be arresting mothers in parks.
Sure.
Like they have the potential for spreading a disease. Like we should be arresting them. No, I've yet to meet that cop. So why is there just silence? Why? It's been a year now and nobody, there's a very select few. Some sheriffs have stood up and say they stand against it. LA sheriff, I think his name is Villanueva, was one of them. And then
That's LA.
yeah. And then he put together the super spreader task force. Yeah. So now you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're trying to appease the people that believe this is bullshit, but then you're still falling in line with your governor and Mayor Garcetti. It has to change, man.
Yeah.
It has to change.
Yep. So what I've come across with police, I've had more contact with law enforcement this year than I ever had in my life. And the only reason is because I refuse to wear a mask.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit, because you have not only just refused to obey these orders, but you've kind of led the charge on events and some leadership things within the community and getting people together. And I'd like to talk to you about some of the incidents that you've been a part of, but what kind of sparked all that and started it?
My wife, she's just really strong-minded and her integrity is unmatched as far as I can tell. She stopped wearing a mask long before I did. I was the one that was going to conveniently wear the mask to get our daughter into Seattle Children's Hospital for appointments or to go pick up prescriptions. I was okay with that. And then she came back from a farmer's market in Seattle late May, early June, before the mask mandate was a thing, after the first 15 days to flatten the curve.
Yeah.
She got chased out of Seattle by grown-ass men with cameras calling her a Karen because she didn't have a mask on. And I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So when she came home crying and telling me that, like, I'm loading my car thinking, I got to go. Someone needs this ass whooping.
Yeah.
Like, I got to go find these dudes, which is unreasonable. So
is it though? Is it though?
It's not unreasonable that they need the ass whooping. It's unreasonable that I'm going to find them.
Yeah.
So,
but not to cut you off, but we live in a society where people can get away with whatever they want now.
There's no accountability, bro.
If someone is saying derogatory shit to your wife, it's go time.
Dude, Antifa throws rocks at people's heads and they don't shoot them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why, I know a ton of Proud Boys, and people, whatever your feelings are on the Proud Boys, man, these guys are just as close to me as Ranger buddies in our community as Ranger buddies were in the military. They're down good dudes. They're great men and they're leaders in their community. I haven't seen them do anything bad yet. And I judge everybody.
Yeah.
And if I have to, I judge them. Other than that, I call it discernment. But these guys are going to meet Antifa, getting rocks thrown at their heads, and they just show up with helmets next time.
Yeah.
That's the problem. There's no accountability. You throw a rock, you get shot in my life.
As it should be. That's a deadly force encounter.
100%.
And so you were getting ready. You were considering going down there.
And that's not reasonable. And so instead, I jumped on social media like a damn millennial. And I said, this is bullshit. This is what happened to my wife. If anyone ever wants to go shopping in my community, you can call me 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, name the time, I will be there. And if anyone wants to come up and say something to you, they're going to have to say it to my big ass first.
Yep.
And so the very next day, we planned something to go to a Winco up in Marysville at 10 a.m. and 15 people showed up. I was like, sweet. So we went shopping. We made entry without masks. Everyone's like, "There's your mask," and there was equal amount of people without masks as there were masks in the store now. And this was before the mandate.
Yeah.
And it was great. And these people felt empowered. It was mostly women too. They're like, "Oh my God, I just love." There was a pregnant woman, older women, younger women, couples, and so everyone got their groceries without masks, and that became a thing. We started going shopping 3-4 days a week without masks, and it got to the point where it was growing so quickly and organically. All of a sudden, we're texting like 100 people to go grocery shopping. And usually like 30 to 60 would show up. We were doing farmers markets. And then we've just been trying to figure out, while doing that, we're identifying people who are saying, I'm not going to fall to this bullshit, and I'm going to do what I think is right, regardless of the consequences. And as we find those people, it's changed. So now what we do is we go to business owners that are open, because they're not allowed to be. And they're saying, well, I took on this responsibility by hiring 10 employees, and I'm going to open up even though the state says I'm closed. And so now I go to restaurants the same day every week. I go to a place for breakfast every Friday at 10, and there's a line out the door.
Dude, I'll join you
anytime.
As soon as I'm done with this fast.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what we should be doing. Supporting those that are showing courage.
So when I showed my ass the other day to a cop by painting with a broad brush, I was at this diner and I was talking to everybody about leadership, accountability, and I was telling them I've had so many run-ins with cops, and what I'm learning is privately they'll tell you that they believe the same stuff, but publicly they have to wear a mask even though they don't want to because they're slaves to their paycheck.
Yep.
This is why I withdrew my application from the Bellevue Fire Department. They were going to make me wear a mask into the oral board, the final oral board, but they said I could take it off once I'm inside, and I said, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I wrote them an email, said, our values don't match. Thanks for the opportunity.
Bro, and like people are listening, some people probably think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what I'm realizing as a 40-year-old man, and you're much younger than me. How old are you?
31.
31. You reach a point where you realize I have to live my life on my trajectory.
100%.
And I'm not saying that I'm 100% right, but based on my life experiences, these are my morals. These are kind of like my left and right limit of how I want to live. And I have to stay in that lane. And if you step outside of that, it's almost like you're cheating on yourself.
Dude, I'm a gun position and I have sectors of fire.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly right.
And I can't go outside of that.
And it feels good because once you're like, okay, this is where I stand on shit.
It gets easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how powerful this was until I did make that stand and my agency fired me. And it was like, good.
You were free.
Hey, I'm free. I felt a literal weight like come off me. Like I could breathe again.
So going back to leadership and cops and being free and being a slave, if your leadership in the police department would have given you that freedom and you didn't have to take it yourself, they would have freed a lot more slaves that day.
Yes.
And so that's why I think we have to support business owners, because this guy who has his restaurant open, he has 5 to 10 employees that are cooking and slinging eggs, and he's given them freedom. He said, regardless if you want to wear a mask or not, if you want to work or not, I'm going to sign your check if you work for me.
Yes.
You are now a free man who's able to make money in America.
So
that's empowering.
Yes, dude. To circle back around. So what was the interaction with the cop then?
So I'm sitting there, on my soapbox, the restaurant's packed, the line's out the door, and I'm talking to someone about all my interactions with law enforcement. And I said, what the sad thing is all cops wear masks. And even though a lot of them don't want to, they'll tell me privately at a protest, like, hey man, I can't really say this, but thank you. I don't want to wear this mask. I'm like, that's why I'm doing this. I don't want to protest. I'm not a lefty. This is so foreign to me. I despise protests. So I like supporting the business owners instead. But so I've heard this from cops, and I'm telling this story in the restaurant about how all cops wear masks. I painted with a broad brush. And I go back and I'm eating my breakfast. Fast forward 10 minutes, this man and his wife leave, and he comes over. He says, I just want to shake your hand. I was like, oh, cool. Thanks, man. Let me shake yours too. And I get his name, and he leans in and he whispers, not all cops wear masks. And I'm just thinking like, oh, fuck, man. Like I said that in front of a restaurant full of people.
Yeah.
And so I follow him outside and I just eat the humble pie as fast as I can. I was like, okay, like I want to know who you work for, first of all, and he won't tell me the department.
Yeah.
He ended up telling me. But he says, I have so much time on this job. I'm really close to a pension. I won't wear a mask. The department is on fire over it. The union's having an issue. He just told me all the issues. And he says, I won't do it. And he says, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get my pension or what's going to, he's unsure, but he refuses to do it. And I'm just like, my heart broke for the dude, but he's doing the right thing.
He's not a slave to the pension.
He's not a fucking slave.
Yeah.
And so then fast forward a week, we're back at the diner at the cafe doing breakfast. The next week, lines out the door. And it's cool because you look out the window on the street that the diner's on, for sale, closed, for sale, closed. This diner, supply and demand. Like we are lined up out the door, guys just taking cash in. This man comes in, parks his car, jumps out, runs into the restaurant in uniform, throws $20 on the bar, grabs a coffee from the owner, and everyone in the restaurant starts clapping for this dude, no mask, in uniform. And he grabs his coffee and he leaves. And so I took a second, and I hate talking in front of groups of people because I don't want people to think I am this leader, more as I'm just organizing leaders. I'm trying to identify leaders and organize them and empower them to be leaders.
Well, and a lot of times the best leaders don't look at themselves
just
as leaders.
Coordinator.
Yeah,
right?
you're just a guy, you know?
Just a dude.
But guess what? You're a leader by default, just by how you carry yourself and what you're doing, you know?
This guy comes in, he gets his coffee, everyone just starts clapping. There's like women crying, and he's just like awkward and goofy and runs out, gets in his car and goes to work. And then as the clapping stops and the awkward silence begins, I'm like, I just want everyone in here to know all this bullshit about heroes of COVID, the COVID heroes, people that are at nurses or essential teachers that are heroes, those aren't heroes. I said people that are doing that and holding themselves to their moral standards and their belief systems, those are heroes. Mm-hmm. People that are letting their employees work with or without the choice to wear masks, those are heroes. Those are the ones freeing the slaves. So I think that's important.
And I mean, the nurses and the doctors, they're doing their thing, right? And it's respectable.
100%.
And I appreciate that job and what they do. But it's funny, like, if you're posting pictures of yourself online saying like, you know what, insert whatever they're saying. Like you see pictures of nurses that are like, I'm holding the line for you guys.
Not
and stuff
all heroes
like that.
wear capes.
Yeah. And it's like, you're just doing the job that you signed up for.
That's it.
Like, just like we did on patrol in Afghanistan. And guess what? There was a much higher likelihood that we were going to fucking not come back than you are working in the COVID ward.
The flu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with that said, I mean, cool. Thank you for doing what you do, but it's not, I don't feel like you deserve some big fucking like appreciation from everybody.
It's just your job.
It's just your job.
Shut up and do it.
And if you don't like it, you can always walk away.
Yeah.
Right.
But what's the problem? So here's the problem I have. Doctors and nurses, in my opinion, are far from heroes because they are entitled and aren't holding themselves accountable when they look at the numbers. So when I have all the doctors at Seattle Children's Hospital that's funded by University of Washington, who's taken the front, you know, they've taken the COVID battle on behalf of the nation. They're sending me letters saying, we're not going to see your daughter because you've made it clear you won't wear a mask. We will not. This is a refusal of treatment for your daughter at our hospital who's been here since the day she was born.
You know what's interesting about that?
That's a villain.
You are, as you're talking about this, it's making me draw a parallel between law enforcement and the medical profession, because just like most cops believe one thing, but everybody's paralyzed to say what they believe or do the right thing because the mayor and the governor and your chief, and no man or woman has the power to make you do something that is morally incorrect.
100%.
Period. Right. And so one of my last shifts as a police officer, I was actually working at the UW campus, and it was a 12-hour shift. And I talked to a lot of nurses and doctors, and they're like, hey, see that big tent out there? That's the big COVID facility that we built. Guess how many people have come through it? 0. And this was in,
joke.
I forget. It was right before I got put on leave. So it's probably April. And then the nurses were telling me, they're like, what people don't understand is that our ER drains money and resources. If all you're operating as a hospital is an ER, good luck staying open. They said it's a drain on resources. The OR is what makes the hospital all of its money. And so a lot of elective surgeries,
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, a lot of elective surgeries generate a lot of revenue for the hospital. And a hospital is like anything else. It's a fucking business, right? You have to be in the green to be operating. You have staff to pay. You have equipment to buy, right? And so these nurses were like, they shut down the OR and they only want us to run the ER. And because of that, we're not making any money. A lot of our staff is now on unpaid leave or furloughed, they were calling it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why aren't we hearing about this? Why isn't this on the fucking, you know, this should be a fucking headline news. Like, the people in this profession are saying that it's bullshit too.
Yeah.
And, you know, I sometimes have a hard time trying to decipher like what's fact versus fiction and all this shit, because I know there are some hospitals that went through hard times, and I had buddies that worked there where they did have a bunch of people that were dying of COVID. But just because it happened in this city or that city, that doesn't mean the rest of the country.
We don't live in a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly. Has to be subjected to all the same shit. And the other thing that's frustrating about it, it's like how the coronavirus is being dealt with. If your governor is a Democrat versus if your governor is a Republican are vastly different.
Florida.
Yeah, exactly. So what is that telling us as American citizens? That's telling us that the political parties are using this as a tool. Hey, look at us. We're not having any restrictions. Like, that's cool, right? But are they doing that because they believe that's right? Or are they doing that because they're falling in line with the right? Whereas the left says, oh no, everybody's going to die. Mask up, stay home, stay safe. Everybody falls in line. It's like, this is nuanced. Hey, in this area, we've had these numbers. Like, maybe we need some more precautions. And I'm not saying that I think the government has the right to enforce any of those precautions, but just give us the data, be open and honest, and then let free thinking, open-minded Americans decide what works for them. I feel like it's simple, you know?
I think it's simple. I'm curious where you feel about freedom versus slavery. I had this conversation with Juliet's best friend, who you met at our wedding. And we said the spectrum, you have freedom or anarchy, which is no rules or governing, which humans can't handle.
No.
And then you have communism.
Very few humans could handle it.
We just don't.
It turns into warlords.
We're talking about accountability again. Yep. People don't hold themselves accountable to be truly free. People will be fucking in your front yard and looking in your windows.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, so where if freedom is anarchy at 100 and then communism or slavery is down here at the other side of the spectrum, she said that she thinks an appropriate amount of freedom for the American people is 80%. About I said 90. I'm almost to the point now after 2020 where I don't even think we need driver's licenses. I think I can teach my kid how to drive. I can let my kid how to drive as a parent when I decide that's safe, and it's no one else's responsibility to tell my kid when or where they can or can't do something.
Well, the roadway thing,
I understand,
is always trumped with those are built by the government. Sure. So to use them, you have to follow the government's rules.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I'd have to sit and think on that.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, we don't have freedom. We have like a constitution that governs what that reasonable amount of freedom is.
Sure.
And I think the founding fathers and people that are a lot smarter than me took into account all of the things that, like you said, on one aspect, freedom is anarchy, and the other aspect, it's absolute slavery. And I think they found the good balance. I think the biggest thing that we need to realize, like, if our actions are impeding other people's ability to just pursue their life and their own freedoms and their happiness, that's where we start to have an issue. And I think outside of that, you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck you want. If you're, dude, you want to shoot heroin in your fucking basement? Shoot heroin in your basement.
Yep.
You want to have 3 wives? Have 3 wives. Yeah. Like, the government shouldn't have the ability to tell us what we can and can't do within our own lives, our own bodies, and our own houses.
Especially if it's not affecting anybody else.
Well, that's my whole point.
Yeah.
As soon as your addiction to heroin makes you go to your neighbor's house and break the car window out of his fucking 4Runner and take all the chains out of the cup holder, okay, now we have an issue.
Yep.
Now your ability to live free and make your own choices affected me. Let's hammer that person. So let's hammer that person.
In an anarchist system, you would be the one responsible for handling that person.
And bro, that's why I'm to the point where it's like, I used to say all the time, I don't want my children to experience war. I don't want my children to have to live through some of the shit that I lived through. But I don't know if there's any other way to kind of rein our society back in other than showing them actions have consequences. Mm-hmm. You fuck people over, bigger and badder people should fuck you over harder.
Yeah, accountability,
we just right?
Talked about it, yeah.
And we don't have it anymore. And I know I've talked about this on the show plenty of times, but I think we don't have accountability anymore because of these right here, cell phones. people have a lifetime already now. You know, people that are 20 years old right now, since the time they were 10, they could just voice their opinion to whoever they want, which is good in one hand, but then they can be rude and aggressive and say demeaning shit.
Get away with it.
And get away with it. And it's not reality. It hasn't been reality since the dawn of mankind.
Yep.
And so I feel like that pass to kind of behave in a manner and treat people in a manner that for the last million years would have got you hit over the head with a club. Now they have a pass for it.
Yeah.
And that causes people to live in a manner that's, in my opinion, is not sustainable.
100%.
You know?
The accountability issue. So leadership and accountability, I think, are the two biggest issues we have in the country.
100%, dude. So to circle back around to the mask thing that you were doing for a while, are you, and you can tell me to fuck off, are you comfortable telling was it Whole Foods?
Oh, yeah.
The Whole Foods story?
Well, there's a lot. So
the one that you just text me the video.
The arrest?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were going to shopping.
This is a very interesting story.
We were shopping. We were going, and we really relatively healthy. We tried to, and so those are unfortunately the most woke places. Is where you get the highest quality food.
Yeah.
Those places are super fucking woke. And what's interesting is these woke places that used to not even put hand sanitizer on their carts are now the biggest fascists. They're the ones screaming rules like 6 feet apart, put your mask on. I'm anti-fascist. Suck my dick. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're a fascist. And so, yeah, we were doing Whole Foods and they called the cops on us. Their workers were filming my daughter while I was shopping saying, your daughter's going to die of COVID. And then they hid the worker in the back of the store at Linwood Whole Foods. And they're like, we're not telling you who she is. I'm like, she just like verbally assaulted my kid. So I actually wanted to call the cops, get an incident number. They got her name. I found out who she works for that way. But I'll digress. We went to PCC in Bothell. And at PCC, we protested. We're telling everyone, hey, take your mask off, smile, hug your neighbor, or at least fight for the right to be allowed to. That's not asking for too much. And so while we're in there shopping, a woman was walking into the store and a police officer said, you know, if you take one more step past me, I'm going to arrest you for trespassing. And no one in the store had ever even talked to her because she knew what she was doing. She was like, if no one from the store trespasses me, I'm not trespassed. So she never talked to anyone from the store. And so she took her other step and then the cop grabbed her and she was terrified. And there's a great video. You can see it. It turns into an altercation. I started filming the whole thing, which made me feel like a weirdo because I've never been the guy that just films something while a dude's putting his hands on a woman. I didn't know what to do. Like, what do you do in that scenario? Because we've talked about this. It's like, is this the time where I'm going to go to jail and spend the rest of my life away from my kid because I'm going to help this woman who's being assaulted by a law enforcement officer who's probably a good guy that's making a mistake because he's a slave to his paycheck?
Yeah.
Or I don't do anything to this cop and I film. I became a leftist in front of my own eyes. But so I did. I pulled my phone out. I filmed his arrest of her, which was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. He never read her rights, which I don't want to get into the semantics of it. But in the video, he takes her out. He puts her in the car. They take her to the police department.
So let me give you my perspective of it as a police officer. So reading somebody their rights, their Miranda rights, there's 3 tiers that need to be met, right? You have to be talking to that person on behalf of the United States government. Therefore, if you're a police officer, that tier is met, right? You also have to be in custody. Well, she's in handcuffs. She's in custody, right? The third one, you have to be questioned. You have to be talking to them. Like if I observe someone commit a crime that's just 100% blatant, let's see, I walk out of a store and I see a guy that shot somebody, right? I can go arrest that guy, put a handcuffs, throw him in the back of my car because I don't have to question him at all, right? And so if you don't have to question them, you don't have to Mirandize them.
Okay.
But here's the thing that's very interesting about that specific incident, because I've talked about it on the show before. They were citing criminal trespass, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. In order for criminal trespass to be enforceable, a person has to be given a lawful order to leave an establishment or a piece of property and then refuse it.
Yeah.
That is criminal trespass. And it can't come from the business owner. It has to come from the police officer that shows up. Because if you allow a business owner to have legal authority to give a lawful criminal trespass order, you can see how convoluted that would get. The police officer shows up and says, hey, Well, this person told me that they told you that you can't be here and you're still here, so now you're getting arrested. That doesn't meet the elements of criminal trespass because that's hearsay. That can get very convoluted. It can also become malicious. Like, oh, well, this is an ex-girlfriend that stopped by to pick up a coat and I told her she can't be here and she's still here. I want her criminal trespass. Like, you see, as a police officer, you could get interjected into a lot of kind of like convoluted bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So the law reads, the officer has to give the warning of criminal trespass, and you document that. Hey, at this date and time, I told this person they are not welcome here for this reason. They refused or they came back. Either one of those. So like the cop leaves and the person comes back 10 minutes later. Well, now you were previously given your lawful order. It's documented. You can be arrested. That lady said in the video, hey, I'll leave. If there's a problem here,
let me go. I'll leave.
She goes, I don't know what the problem is, but if there is a problem, I'll leave right now. Criminal trespass is now off the table.
Yeah.
And so
it was ego.
Yeah, it was ego, right? I love, my favorite part is you said, you said something like, why are you pushing her into the salad? Right? Because and how old is that lady? Mid-50s?
Yeah, maybe late 50s, yeah.
Yeah.
Good woman.
And he grabs her by the arm and pushes her into a wall of like those ready-made salads. And it's like, dude, that could be my mom.
And that's what I'm thinking.
Think about what you're doing. You're putting your hands on a lady. You're putting her in handcuffs simply because she didn't have a mask on.
Yep.
You know? And so is that the first thing that, like, as she walked in and he said, if you take a step further, you're getting arrested?
No, so he was actually pretty far into the store. We walked in and the manager came right up to me and he said, and the manager said, you can't be in here. And she was already past us. He stopped me and she came back and she grabbed me and she said, don't talk to anyone in here. We need to go get my water. She wanted to go buy a water. And so I walked with her. And then the second the cop came and cut our walk off, he just blocked our path. He became a blocking position. And he said, if you take one more step past me, you'll be arrested. And she just was like, I'm getting my water.
Got it.
And then,
okay. So I wonder if in his mind,
the trespass had been,
he thinks that is the legitimate warning to make that a legal arrest for trespass. But here's the most interesting thing about the story is once they booked her into jail, how long was she there? An hour or something?
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah, so they pulled into the jail, and we all got in cars and followed them. Half of the protest stayed at the store. Half of us went to Bothell PD. And we're just like outside of Bothell PD, ringing the doorbell, trying to get in. It's a public building. They won't come talk to us or anything. And we're like, you should release this woman. Like, this is horrible. She was not wearing a mask and shopping. And so there's like maybe 10 or 15 of us at the police department. So now I've turned into this person who's literally outside of a police department yelling this. And I'm like a back the blue, conservative leaning guy. Now I'm at a police department yelling at cops.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy
bizarre,
world.
right?
It's weird. It's foreign. And they let her out. She comes out a back door 20 minutes later and she comes up and we're like, holy shit. And she's like, yeah, they just let me go. They gave me a Band-Aid because I got cut and they let me go.
And they said,
they told her she's lucky.
Yeah. They told her, like, it's your lucky day. We're just going to let you go.
We'll do you a favor, babe.
We're going to do you a favor. That's what's the most appalling part of this whole story, right? Because for me to arrest someone as a police officer, okay, I can detain someone to investigate. If I have reasonable suspicion that somebody committed a crime, then that means I can stop you and say, you're not free to go because I believed you did this. It doesn't mean you did it necessarily. It just means I think you did it based on A, B, and C, right? Now, in order to take you into the fucking jail and book you, I have to have what's called probable cause. And that means these are the facts and circumstances that lead me to believe that I don't think you did this. I believe that you did this. It's still not 100%. Only a court of law is gonna convict or acquit, right? Yeah. It's the officer's job to say, I think this person did this for these reasons. That's why they're in jail. So by the time I put someone in a cell and lock the door, I have to already have all my fucking T's crossed and I's dotted saying this person did this. And I have to stand behind that, right?
Well, you're taking someone's freedoms away.
That's
so
exactly right.
Yeah.
I have to be able to raise my right hand and swear in a court of law, I believe this person committed this crime, and that's why they're locked up. For them to just say, you know what, it's your lucky day, we're going to let you out. I've never heard of anything like that in my entire life.
She came out the back. She didn't even come out the front door.
They
like let her out the door. They brought her in, and she walked around the gate and came and found us, and we drove her back to the store.
Yeah. So for you to deprive someone of their freedom, you have to have probable cause, and you have to write a probable cause statement just to book them into jail. Before I can arrest someone and take them to jail, and I have to write a 2-paragraph probable cause statement that says, on this day, I observed this person doing this, or I observed video footage, or I have credible witnesses. Whatever reason I think they did it has to be documented just to take them to jail, right? Yeah. So for them to take her to jail and then say, you know what? It's your lucky day. We're just going to let you out. This is what happened. This is the true story that nobody's telling you.
Hear,
yeah. Patrol officer, whoever he was said, hey, go to Whole Foods because the business is upset about people there without masks, okay?
PCC, yeah.
Or PCC. He shows up, and this is what it could have looked like, okay? I talked to the manager. Hey, this is my store. I have legal authority to refuse business to anyone. There's people in here without a mask on, and I would like them out of here, okay? So me as a patrol level officer, if you want to enforce this, again, it goes back to where you stand on things, right? Are you willing to lose your job over it, or are you going to enforce it? But at the end of the day, he does have a legal right to tell you to leave the store if the manager doesn't want you in there.
Yes.
So he could say, hey, this manager told me that he doesn't want you guys in the store for this reason, and now I'm asking you to leave. That's how that had to look. But that's not how it looked. He arrested someone and took him to jail. When he got to the jail, his command looked at the circumstances and looked at the facts, and we're like, what the fuck are we going to do?
Yeah.
Get her out of here right now. And they're just trying to wash their hands of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Under the guise of you're lucky. That's
under
what
the guise
really
you're
pisses
lucky.
me off, because I felt it was the same way.
So if she pursues the lawsuit, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Who knows what she's going to do? I don't know. Do you have any idea? You probably don't want to talk about it.
I know a little bit, and I'll tell you about it offline.
Okay, cool. But yeah, that's a bad situation for that police department.
It's a bad mistake. Well, and what you just described is interesting. So they actually arrived with 6 officers for the phone call. So I'm sitting here looking
think about that, dude.
That much taxpayer dollars for people trying to shop without a mask for something that's 99.9%, depending. I mean, you can go back and forth on that.
And something that's not a law.
And something that's not a law. You can't require condoms. You can't require masks. Get off my ass.
Yeah.
I can risk AIDS as much as I want, and I can give herpes to anybody. Like, get away from me.
Dude, and one thing that you said that you're like, because there was a period of time where when people would get in your case, you're like, hey, I'm exempt.
Yeah, I used to say I'm
exempt. And then I remember you said,
I'm a pussy for saying that.
You just said, I'm a pussy for saying that because I'm not sick.
I'm not fucking sick, man, and it's none of your business. I'm not wearing a mask. Yeah, so I've gone through medical exemption. I used to always say that. I'd walk into stores, I'm medically exempt. And then I would just throw my hand in their face and walk by. And then that changed to, I used to say, I'm religiously exempt. I don't believe in this. It's a belief system thing for me. My sense of being says, get fucked. And so now I just tell them, no. Absolutely not. You need to have a mask on. No, I don't. And you have no right to tell me what to do because you don't know who I am or what I have in my pockets, and I don't know the same about you, so get away from my family.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to as a sovereign individual. No.
Dude, it's just bizarre that we've arrived at a place where I like what you just said. You don't know me. You don't know how to have my pockets. And that's not being threatening or aggressive. And that's not even saying that you as an individual are going to do anything to someone. But the fact is, you don't know what other people are capable of or who they are.
Yeah.
If I saw my daughters being confrontational with somebody that they don't know, I would chastise them.
Sure.
What are you doing? That's not tactically intelligent to be confrontational with people that you may not be ready to have a confrontation with. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing over and over and over. And I'm not talking about the people standing at the door that work for Costco. They were told to go stand there and their employer said, hey, I want a mask in the store and I want you to tell people. And dude, to tell you the truth, how shitty. I know, right? How shitty would that feel to be that person? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I have sympathy, and I've tried different techniques. We've been doing this all year. I've tried different techniques of being sympathetic with the person at the door. Like, look, man, I know you don't want to do this, so tell your boss you talk to me and leave me alone. And, and I get mixed response with that. Costco, I watched the manager at the Woodinville Costco kick a woman out who was by herself because she's claimed exemption. And then as she was leaving, he said with a smirk on his face, you can go ahead and hand me that membership card and I'll cancel it if you're upset. And she goes, I'd have to think about it. And he goes, that's what I thought. Bye. Yeah. In front of Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, who's like yelling at my wife. And in front of like a group of people that were there saying, I thought we were allowed to be exempt here. And they said, well, we changed our mind today.
Yeah.
And so the corporations are leading the charge for the democratic states. Like these corporations are saying, we'll do the mask mandate. Costco was the first one to require it.
Yeah.
In this state. Fuck Costco.
But what's worse than, I mean, like I said, if you're a business owner and you want to have one of your employees standing there to tell people to put the mask on, regardless of how ridiculous it may feel to us, they can do that if they want to.
100%.
Like I own a business. If I wanted people to come upstairs and do jiu-jitsu with a mask on, I could require that. I mean, there's gyms that are doing that, which is asinine in my opinion. But the most ridiculous aspect of this is when you're in a store and you get someone that has nothing to do with the store become confrontational.
Oh.
And I've had it happen to buddies where they're like, dude, I'm shopping in a grocery store and this like 300-pound lady yells at him from way down the aisle.
From her easy cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just like making a request or trying to educate, like, hey, you're going to fucking kill somebody. Put a mask on. Well, wait, what? You know, like, wait, what are we talking about here? This is a very different thing from a business requiring it to individuals that just think they're empowered because of this social movement to be confrontational with people. Like, I don't know if you saw the story I shared last week, but a guy became confrontational with a group of men.
Yeah, I saw this.
And they beat the fuck out of that dude.
He got exactly what he deserved.
Yeah, dude. And it's funny because I post that and then I have a few friends that are liberals that are like, that's not right, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, listen. You're attaching your political ideologies to it and now looking at him as innocent. Take the context away from the altercation. He was yelling at them inside of a store. Then when they went outside, he walked to his car. He set his groceries in his car. He looked up and he saw the same men on the other side of the parking lot getting in their car. And he decided, you know what? I'm not done educating these people. And he walked across the parking lot.
That's aggression.
And became confrontational with them.
Yep, he broke the aggression principle.
Yeah, because it's funny because you want to walk across a parking lot and be confrontational with people, and then you get your ass kicked.
Yep.
And then he was crying to the police. The police aren't helping me with this. The police aren't doing their job of investigating. And it's like, no. The reason the police aren't doing their job as investigating is because there's a good chance that you were the primary aggressor based on the video footage.
Fight, yeah.
I don't get to walk across the parking lot, be confrontational with someone. And he said, the guy's an idiot too, because he even said in the interview, he's like, well, you know, I did flip one of their hats off their head.
Oh, you fucking idiot.
I said, what? Bro, flipping someone's hat off of someone's head, that's an international sign of
let's get down.
Let's fucking go, dude.
Accountability.
And I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, so sorry if I'm being redundant. But the funniest part is he's like, as soon as they hit me, I fell to the ground into the fetal position and just knew I was going to die. Like, what? That's your combat mindset?
That's Antifa, bro.
Bro, you're being confrontational.
Yeah.
But as soon as confrontation comes your way, I fell to the ground into the fetal position and knew I was going to die. That's the fucking world we're in, man.
In the picture on the story you shared, he's got a mask on. And he's just black and blue with a fucking mask on. It sucks to suck, you nerd.
Did you watch the video too?
No. I didn't even know there was a video.
Oh, dude, part of the video, he goes...
Is it the fight?
No. It's a little bit of the video surveillance.
Oh, okay.
Like walking across the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then his testimony, and he's like, and I'm a former Marine too.
Oh,
and I was like,
crayon eater.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that one.
You're a former cook who got paid by the Marines, you little bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's disgusting. Yeah. It's a great accountability, man. Like you hit that. He deserved that ass whooping as far as I can tell.
And I mean, not that every episode has to be about what's on the horizon, but accountability is on the horizon.
I hope.
One way or another, it's on the horizon, dude. It has to be.
I hope so.
It has to be.
There's a lot of leaders in our community. And so I've learned that and going around and just by not wearing a mask and then drawing that line in the sand and just saying, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do. It's made my life incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But I've gotten I've traded out 100 pennies for 4 quarters, and I've gotten so much garbage out of my life in people, like the people that have been pushed away from me because of my hard line in the sand, family and friends, they're gone, but I've replaced them with high quality people. And I've noticed you have a large amount of high quality people you surround yourself with.
I've talked about that a lot lately in the last year of my life. And I don't say this like disparagingly or to like hurt anybody's feelings, but I feel like people in your life are doing one of two things. They're building you up or they're tearing you down.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Like every single person you surround yourself with is adding value to your life or detracting from your life.
Yeah, make friends with those that want what's best for you.
Yes.
So that's a rule in Jordan Peterson's book.
And so in the last year, and I have a lot of lifelong friends that I feel do build me up, but I've really started to grow this circle with people that it's immediately apparent they add value to my life.
And they want to.
In a wide spectrum of things. Like I've made some friends that are very business savvy.
Yeah.
That enjoy talking to me about how to make my financial life more successful, or people that are fitness driven, or people that just feel good to have you around because they're like-minded and they want to see you do better. Yeah. Like that's the type of people that you need to start surrounding yourself with. And there's other people that I've known my whole life that I like who they are as a person, but they just can't get their shit together.
Yeah.
And it's always, oh, poor this, poor me. And I got fucked here. And
accountability.
Yeah. And this person fucking screwed me over there. And you start to see a pattern. It's like, oh, you're not willing to accept responsibility for anything in your life.
Do you think you can notice that pattern because you've done it?
Maybe.
I have.
Yeah. And again, like you talked about, like kind of saying there's points of your life where you look back on and say like, oh, man, I was a piece of shit.
I wasn't the good dude I want to be. I wasn't who I want people to think I am.
Yeah.
That time.
And I think we were all there at some point.
It's authentic. It's being authentic.
If you're not willing to say that, you're probably not being, like you said, you're not being authentic, because who had life figured out at 24?
No one.
I'll tell you one of the most powerful, things though for me to think about is like when I look at the lack of understanding I have of who I'm supposed to be as a person when I was 22, 25, 20, even 27. And then I look at who I've become today. It makes me realize that the path to becoming the best version of yourself is always understanding that you don't have it figured out.
Yeah.
This is a journey where we're constantly learning. And, I'm 40 now and I think I am on the right path, but I am far.
Dude, but so I was thinking about this last night, martial arts, jiu-jitsu especially. That is something where in all aspects of life, you have to play the fool to become the master of anything. You cannot master anything without playing the fool. You have to get your ass kicked. And you have to be humble about it. You have to look at someone and say, I don't know how this gun works, but I'd like to. And if you're not comfortable playing the fool, then you can't play the master. And so when you're saying you're looking back at all these times, these are times where we've played the fool, but as soon as we were able to be open about that and admit that we aren't who we think we are, and we can own our mistakes and then become the master of things. And martial arts, I think, with the community you've built, like you're taking a group of men and women in your community and you're making them leaders because they are humbling themselves on the mats with their peers day in and day out. And I just love the foundation of martial arts because of that.
And dude, it almost sounds cliche to say, but it's like what you gain on the mats as a human is more applicable to life off the mats.
How so?
Because I'm teaching you how to strangle somebody, right? And so there's a chance where an intruder is going to come into your house and you're going to strangle them unconscious. And I literally did that. I put a guy to sleep and had the police come and arrest him. I could have shot him.
I was going to say, what'd you do once he was asleep?
I actually sat down behind him.
Yeah.
I put both my hooks in, meaning my legs over his legs.
Yeah.
And I didn't release the choke. I just loosened it so he could get blood back to his brain.
So he wouldn't die.
Yeah. And
This is a home intruder?
yeah, well, he was trying to get in. I got him on the front porch before he got in. And I said, listen, we can play this game all day. If you struggle at all, I'm putting you to sleep again.
Yeah, you'll die. Man.
And he started to struggle again. I put him to sleep a second time.
You told him you were going to do
Yeah.
it.
He came to, and I said, bro, this can go on for 10 hours, or you can just wait for the police, and then we're going to fucking sort this out. And that's what ended up happening. The police came, and they arrested him. But my whole point of that tangent was there are physical altercations that you will be able to become more successful at if you learn jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
But that's a small percentage of what it does to you as a person. The bigger things that jiu-jitsu teaches you is how you act in the face of adversity, how to overcome anxiety. I mean, talk to some of our newer female athletes. When you're a 120-pound woman and you come to practice and you got a 200-pound sweaty man that is mounting you, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
All the bells and whistles are going off saying like, hey, yeah, I'm in fight or flight mode. This is scary. I mean, I've had girls say like, I don't even like practice, but when I'm done, I realize that it's necessary.
Good for them.
And so the courage that you build and the resilience that you build and the way to figure out how to win a situation, that's why a lot of times jiu-jitsu is kind of like there's a correlation between jiu-jitsu and chess, because you look at the mats as a chessboard. This person did this, I have to do this.
It's a slow game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then this person did that, so now I have to do that. Or now I'm going to try and do this to block them from doing this. And you can start to think 2, 3, 7 steps ahead, which is, it's kind of bizarre, right? But you're training your brain how to analyze situations and be tactical and come out on top. And it's very similar to like CQB, taking a building down, right? That stuff can become like surgical.
Yeah, multi-team, multi-room.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And so a lot of people at jiu-jitsu are like, they just feel more confident. They feel more physically fit. The other aspect of it is just like what you mentioned. We're building a team of people that like to be around each other, that support each other. And dude, once you start to build a tribe of people that you know have your back, that in itself is so powerful because we're tribal creatures by nature, you know?
Yeah, we're herd animals.
And so, man, I've seen that entire gym build each other up like dramatically over the last 6 months, because a lot of people, I mean, it's no secret how devastating this fucking lockdown has been to families, kids going to school, people getting laid off, but they come to jiu-jitsu and that's their moment to just, okay, I'm with my people.
Yeah.
We're gonna train hard. I feel good. And it's like a reset, you know?
And you start the next day, you reminded that was my tribe.
Yeah.
I am who I am. I can handle what I can handle. So this day is going to suck my,
So sorry, I'm always going on jiu-jitsu tangents. I forgot why we even went on that, but
real quick, because I was talking about playing the fool to become the master.
Oh yeah,
you can't
that's
have
right.
one without the other. I really believe that.
And dude, and that goes, I mean, my guitar in the corner over there. Remember the first time you picked up a drumstick?
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean? Like, you were a fool at that, and now you can fucking jam.
Dude, yeah.
That's every single aspect of life. It's shooting these guns. It's doing jiu-jitsu. It's playing an instrument. But it's also, those things are also applicable in like more of a spiritual realm. Like, how do I conduct myself as a father? What kind of relationships am I building with my friends? Like, how do I treat my employees? All those things, it's still the same thing. In the beginning, you're going to suck, and then you're going to hone your skills, and you're going to become better and better and better if you consistently reflect on yourself and are critical of who you are and what you're doing. And I always say, like, I hope I have life figured out by the time I'm like 75.
Right.
Like, I'll be killing it. If I can be a 75-year-old man, look in the mirror and be like, fuck yeah, dude.
Watching 40 and 30-year-olds thinking like they're getting it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do too.
Like, I feel like I'm finally there.
Dude, I'm meeting 20-years though, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy gets it a lot sooner than I did. Like, these guys are in their 20s.
Isn't that crazy?
And I'm like, okay, I'm 31, this guy's 25, and he's got his shit together.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with if you keep at it.
No, and it's like, it's funny you say that, because I was talking to Mitch Aguiar, the guy that is last week's episode. I was talking to him last night on the phone, and he's 30, and his business is really successful. And like he's a pro fighter too. And he's like, everything's kind of coming into place for me. And he said, at first I started to become kind of anxious, realizing like, oh, I'm 30 now. Like that's a big step.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm not a kid anymore. He was in the SEAL teams for 10 years, from 18 to 28, started his business, and now he's 30, right? And one thing that he realized is like, dude, I'm on this trajectory from 20 to 30. And he goes, becoming 30 initially scared me. But then I realized if I can maintain that trajectory, man, who am I going to be at 40?
Yeah, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, man.
So now instead of looking at age as something like our society just looks at age as like, it's always a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, I've kind of turned the tables, and now I'm excited to grow older because I realize who I'm going to be and what I'm going to be capable of. So, that's pretty fucking profound, you know?
And that makes me think, if you were to put it this way, if you're aware and you're playing the fool and becoming the master and you're getting your shit together, then age is really just wisdom.
Yeah, that's right.
You're learning, or you're sitting around waiting to die. That's and so getting back to authenticity and people being authentic and getting it, I'm finding in 2020 with these people I've surrounded myself with in these communities that have grown, the main difference is authenticity.
Yeah,
authentic people are learning, and inauthentic people are sitting around waiting to die, plugged into Netflix, getting stoned, getting drunk, just eating shit, and they're just waiting to die, and they're just watching things happen, and they're not really doing anything. They're not learning. They're not taking risks.
I agree.
It's comfortably numb.
I agree.
Have you read Aldous Huxley, A Brave New World?
No, I've not.
Oh, dude, it's great. So I read 1984, and then I got into Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, and it's kind of the same dystopian novel, but what they say is like, society is so comfortable and agreeable. Like, it's just easier, going back to that spectrum, it's easier to just be a 60% slave on the spectrum of freedom than it is to fight for possible 80% back.
Yeah.
And so that was that conversation, is like, if we're usually at 80, where do you think we are now?
Yep. And the thing is, it's interesting you use the word comfort, because we're always seeking comfort.
Convenience and comfort.
But does comfort make you grow as a person?
No.
You know? And like you said, like sitting around smoking weed and watching Netflix, and guess what? I like getting high and watching Netflix.
There's a time and place for everything.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's a balance to everything, right? And part of, I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the American society is you educate yourself from birth to 18, and you graduate high school. Then you educate yourself from 18 to 22 if you want to get your 4-year degree, or 18 to 26 if you want to become a doctor or whatever, right? And then you go into the workforce. And a lot of Americans, their ability to learn, or I should say their desire to learn and keep growing and studying, it shuts off at that age.
We're not breeding thinkers, though. We're breeding workers.
Yeah. So now you go into the workforce, and your next focus, and I heard this daily when I was a police officer, your next focus is retirement. It's like, so from
That's a leap.
Yeah, from 26 to 52, it's like padding my pension. I'm going to get my top 5. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Whereas, dude, if you look at life as a journey where you're constantly learning, you're constantly trying to better yourself. I mean, look at the stack of books that I have over there.
I looked at everyone.
And dude, and I'm not.
That's so good.
And that's something that I've struggled with.
You motivate me to read more. So the 75-day hard thing, that kicked my ass. I didn't do the whole thing.
I didn't either. I failed at day 45, but I've talked about it a lot.
That I did. Dick.
Dude, learning as an adult should feel no different than learning as a child. But for whatever reason, our society is kind of just, hey, you educate yourself when you're young, and then you work when you're old.
It's not comfortable.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, and so the 75, and I've always wanted to read more than I do because it's a discipline thing, right?
Do you find, were you a reader when you were in your 20s in the military?
I would go through phases where I'd hammer through a couple books and really dig it, and then I'd get pulled away and I wouldn't read a book for a year.
Yeah, me too.
And dude, I fucking shout out Andy Frisella, because his 75-day hard program is 10 pages a day.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's not a lot.
It's not a lot. It's
easy,
nothing.
though.
But dude, I started burning through books.
Because you set a reasonable goal.
It's consistent. So now I'm at 15 pages a day, and I'm not on his program, but I read more than 15 pages yesterday.
You just keep a book in the toilet, so like you just read it.
I just keep them on my nightstand, and I'll lay down for 10, 15 minutes, And I try and do it earlier in the day because if I try and read at night, it just fucking knocks me out.
Me too.
And that's a goal that I feel like I've fell short on my entire adult life. And so I want to start reading more. You know, the most successful people in the world, almost all of them are avid readers.
They burn through books.
They burn through books.
The smartest people I know read.
Dude, I got a buddy who works out at the gym. He's a super successful businessman. He's also ultra marathoner. So like the guy just has that drive, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't remember what I was talking about a book with him, and he said, I'll put it in the queue. I'm on book 52 for the year already. And I was like, dude, that's fucking, and this was before the end of the year.
I think I'm on like 8.
Yeah. So that means he's burning through more than one a week. And it's like, again, it goes back to what we were talking about. That is training the adult brain to stay sharp and to continue to learn. So why is it shouldn't even be surprising to hear that the most successful people in the world read all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, so I learned, I wasn't a good reader, and I didn't like reading in my 20s. And so the reason why is I would read a page of a book that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And I would get to the bottom of the page. I'm like, what the fuck did I just read? I just read the words, but my brain wasn't able to keep up thinking critically while I was reading the words.
Yep.
It was challenging. That got easier though.
So I'll tell you, that's something I still struggle with. Yeah. Right. And so I've had a lot of books recommended to me over the last year. And like I had one recommended yesterday on Major Robert Rogers.
Oh, cool.
Because I posted something about him, and this guy said, hey, this is a good book about him. Go to Amazon, buy it. It's en route.
Yeah.
But I'll start to read a book, and if it doesn't captivate me, just like that, I'll read a couple pages, and then I'm like, I literally don't even know what I just read.
Yeah.
It's time to put that book down. Not because it's a bad book, because I don't think I'm ready for that yet. Like I'm a blue belt in reading.
Sure.
I need to.
You have to play the fool to become the master.
So I'm reading a book now. It's called Unfair Advantage by Chad Robichaud, and it's interesting the parallels between his life and my life. He's a Marine. He was in Afghanistan. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He dealt with some depression and PTSD. And so as I'm reading this book, I'm just engaged in it.
Yeah.
And it's like us having a conversation. It just feels like I'm part of this.
You're relating the entire time.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like I need to continue to read books that flow for me. Like, you know, when you're reading a good book, it feels like you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a burden.
You're
like,
not forcing yourself to read.
You know?
Yeah, you're not forcing page 14 of 15.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh shit, there's 15 pages. Like, cool.
So
what was it called?
The book I'm reading right now,
yeah.
It's called Unfair Advantage.
Oh, nice.
And so he's a faith-based person.
Okay. And
a big part of his book is talking about, and it's funny because he talked about all the same shit. Like when he was 20 and deploying, basically his head was up his ass. Like he didn't have anything figured out, you know?
Yeah.
And now that he's looking back on his life and kind of looking at it through a different lens, he's trying to make sense of like who he was and what he did. And it's just interesting. But a lot of his is, attaching his faith to it, which is, you know, and for me, I don't know what my faith is.
That's interesting.
I don't know what it is. Like,
but are you interested in what it is?
Oh, very much so.
You're your spiritual dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of my closest friends are Christian. Like my papa, who basically replaced my dad after he passed, he's a pastor. He talks to me about Christ all the time.
Yeah. And
I used to just be an atheist. I used to be like, hey, if I get shot in Iraq, it's going to be turning the light switch off, and that's the end of Greg Anderson.
When you die, nothing happens.
And I said, I don't give a fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Because if I'm dead, then I'm not going to know the difference. And then I came to a realization that me saying this is what happens when you die is the same as the Christians or the Muslims or all the groups of people that I used to criticize saying, no, this is what happened when you dies.
Yeah.
Or when you die. And so I realized the flaw in my thinking, and it made me come to the conclusion that you don't know what happens when you die.
No.
At least I haven't had an experience that leads me to believe this is 100% correct or that is 100% correct. And some people have, obviously. That's why they follow the Bible or the Quran. But I haven't had that. But what I have had is enough spiritual, like awakening moments that I do believe there's something else out there.
Yeah, so you're not an atheist.
No.
Yeah.
I think there is an energy life force that maybe that's what people call the soul.
Sure.
that does transcend your physical body.
Yeah.
And I've had enough weird experiences where I don't think that's up for debate anymore. And so now that that's where I stand, and dude, I didn't come to that conclusion until a couple of years ago, you know, now that that's where I stand, it's like, okay, I need to hone it in a little more.
Yeah. I think the Christians are close. And I don't know, have you heard of Nietzsche?
No.
So it's he's a psychologist. And he declared the death of God. He said God is dead. And everyone thought that was him being an atheist and just, fuck God, God's dead. But that's not what it was. What he was saying was that the dogmatics of religion, like Christianity, killed God because they said in the Christian religion, all you have to do is believe that Jesus is the Son of God and ask for forgiveness, and you can do whatever the fuck you want, short of like the cardinal sins. And that's a generalization.
Mm-hmm.
But what Nietzsche said was the problem with Christianity doing that's good. That makes people generally afraid and do the right thing, and it helps them with morals and values because humans can't handle anarchy. We need something like that.
Yeah.
But what he said was the problem is instead of just believing in Jesus and saying all is forgiven, the Bible actually says you should be imitating Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've taken the accountability away from the largest group that was supposed to be imitating Christ. And so if you're imitating Christ, you're trying to be a perfect man. You're trying to do good for your community, put yourself after others, and you're learning, and it's humbling, and it's this whole journey of life. And so instead of imitating Christ, the majority of Christians now, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but a lot of them will get into this, all you have to do is believe Jesus is the Son of God and pray for forgiveness and you're saved.
Yeah. And dude, that used to rub me the wrong way because I'd be like, listen, you're telling me that you want to live for Christ, but then we go get drunk and try and bang chicks and get in fights and like do a bunch of nefarious ass shit as a 22-year-old Ranger. Well, you're literally telling me that you believe this guy died for your sins, and because of it, you get to have your fucking sins washed away.
Right.
You literally believe that with your heart, but your actions don't say that.
Exactly.
So if you really believed that 100%, would you really be out there doing all this shit? Or would you be trying to walk a straighter line?
You'd be trying to get your buddy that you're out with to do the right thing.
Yeah.
By example, leading by example, right? That's pretty much the way I look at the story of Christ is what he did. Is he just led by example. I'm going to do the right thing, and people are going to be like, wow, that's tough, but that guy can do it. And I'm going to do the same thing.
It's pretty cool.
That's being Christ-like.
But the other thing that has always rubbed me wrong about Christianity is that, and I mean, I don't know, I haven't been like my papa, who is a pastor. Oh, wow. I enjoy learning about Christ through him because he's approaching it from a place of love.
Yeah.
He's like, this is how having a relationship with Christ can make you a better person. It's how it can make you a better husband. It's how it can enhance and enrich who you are. But when I was younger, I used to go to like Bible school. And I remember there was a lot of fear mongering. Like, listen, all you have to do is invite Christ into your life. But if you don't, you're going to go to hell.
You're going to burn in hellfire.
Like, bro, to tell a fucking 12-year-old.
4.
Yeah, that you're literally going to burn in a fire.
For life, eternity.
Eternity, if you don't believe, if you don't take to heart what I'm telling you, that is an unfair way to educate people, especially young people that are very impressionable and that are also like, I mean, it's just like when one of my daughters hears a noise in the house. Dad, I heard something. Like, fear fills their heart faster than it's going to fill our hearts.
Sure.
Right? So to tell a child that you're going to be subjected to an eternity of pain as a method of spiritual growth, that seems very flawed to me.
I think it's forcing recruitment.
Yeah.
You better believe in this or it's going to be way worse than a timeout. And not only is it going to be worse than a timeout, but once you're into this, now you're going to be a complacent human who just asks for forgiveness instead of doing the right thing from the get-go.
Yeah. So
you're just adding complacent humans to chalk it up. That's another one. Great cradle to grave. We're making lazy, complacent workers.
So I got to tell you a story,
yes.
And I'll probably have people unfollowing me after this because they're going to be like, that dude's a fucking kook.
Dump the pennies, get the quarters, man.
So I was getting a massage.
Yeah. What kind of massage?
It was no happy endings, okay? Yeah. No, this is actually a girl I'm friends with, and she's a Reiki.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Crystal shit?
Yeah,
I've
dude,
never done it.
She's into all this like like
My aunt
weird
does that.
shit.
Yeah, I have an aunt that does it.
But bro, so she's working on me, and she's like addressing specific issues. Like you got a spot in your back where you hurt, and your left knee is in pain. And she's going through things, and she touches me on my rib, and she goes, "Oh, you were stabbed in a previous life. This is how you were killed. Someone stabbed you." And I was like, the fuck? That's some bizarre shit.
What you smoking?
But I'm also to the point now where nothing's off the table.
Yeah.
Because again, to circle back around, when you think you know something, you're limiting your outlook and your perspectives and your ability to learn, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, I wonder why did she think that? Or what is going on here, right? And bro, so now fast forward a couple of weeks, I smoked a joint and I cranked my sauna up to 200 degrees.
Yeah.
And I sat in it for 30 minutes. And I'm not kidding you, dude. It put me into a place where I was detached from physical reality.
Good.
And I was like observing myself. And I got shot with an arrow or a spear.
You were punctured.
Yeah.
You were stabbed.
And I was on a horseback, and it made me fall to the ground. And like, okay, so this experience happened to me in the sauna, and I watched this like vivid visualization of this happening to me in like obviously not who I am today, a different version of me. And I came upstairs. I like kind of came out of this like trance, and I walked upstairs, and Jenny, my wife, looks at me and she goes, "You look like you've just seen a ghost. Your whole face is completely white." And I look at her and I go, "This is going to sound fucking crazy, but I think I did just see a ghost."
Yeah.
Like I watched myself get killed. Now, is this just some crazy game my own brain is playing on itself? Or is there some kind of weird energy that you can pick up on different, maybe we did exist in different realms or different times. Like who knows, right?
Yeah.
And so I said this to her, and she goes, "Sorry if you don't want me to say this on the air," but she looked at me and goes, "Yeah, my last life was in Egypt. I was actually sacrificed."
Fuck yeah.
I said, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, "We've been together."
On a moon.
Yeah. I go, "What the fuck are you talking about? We've been married 15 years now, or together 15 years.
Never told me this.
And she goes, "Why would I bring that up? If I said that to anyone, they'd think I'm a fucking lunatic." She goes, "But now that you've had a similar experience, I'm okay opening up about it."
That's awesome.
And then
That's empowering.
Yeah, dude. And then I talked to another one of my buddies about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm to a point in my life where I don't care if you think I'm fucking crazy. Because maybe I am, dude. I don't even know. And he goes, "Oh yeah, my last life, I believe I was part of an African tribe." And I was like, okay, 3 people now.
Yeah.
That I've been close with for a long time just say, yeah, like that seems completely normal to me. In my last life, I think I was this. And I'm like, dude, what is going on?
It's people say that shit. So Juliet, she said, our daughter, she's 2.5, and she's like, "Oh, once she starts remembering her dreams, we need to ask her what she's dreaming about because she's closer to her last life than we are." And I'm thinking here, I need to start drinking again. You're batshit crazy.
Yeah.
But no, I since being more open to things, I hear a lot more about it. And just so you were being open with your wife about it, then you heard about something.
Yeah.
Usually it wouldn't have even ever been brought up in the next 15 years.
So isn't that kind of the premise of Buddhism? Like
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I don't know either. I'm ignorant on it, so I probably shouldn't even talk about it. But I've had people describe it to me as, in Buddhism, you're continuously trying to reach like enlightenment by being the best version of yourself. And the best version of yourself.
I like that.
And like you get to rerun this life over and over until you really figure it out.
And then you're
and then you transcend to like another realm, right? And so one thing that's interesting to me is I look at my 3 children, and it's very apparent. My oldest is an old soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like
cooking breakfast downstairs for herself.
She and just the way that she carries herself, the way she interacts with people, you can see it in her eyes. Like you can see wisdom in her eyes, and I've been able to see that since she was young.
Yeah.
Where my younger 2, they're in a much younger phase of life, even though like the actual physical age is the same. Like when they were all 5.
Yeah.
If I compare who they are at 5, and I'm not even talking about like intelligence or capabilities, I'm just talking about like who they are as a person. You can tell that they're at different stages of who they are.
That's fascinating.
And so I know you're doing one and done, right? No more kids for you guys?
I say that, and that's because I only want one.
Yeah.
I just want to spoil the shit out of my kid, and I don't want to, like, you know, spread my love thin. I already see, like, competition between my wife and my daughter for daddy's attention sometimes, you know, and it's hard. It's hard because we only have so much in the tank.
Of course.
And so it's like, I want a baseball team.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to have a farm and just kids everywhere, and I'm just pieces of myself that are going to have an opportunity to grow and learn more than I did and do their shit. But yeah, I think I'm just going to do one and done.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gives you advice on what to do.
Yep.
You know, but the truth is, you can have one child and it can be amazing, or you could be a terrible fucking family. And the same could be said if you had 10 kids,
Yep.
right? And so each is going to present like different fucking, like, you know, different things that you're going to have to go through that are beneficial, or things that may actually detract from your family.
Absolutely.
And so who's anyone to tell you how many kids you should have? You know, I got buddies that are like, I'm having no kids. And a lot of people are like, you have to. And
do you though?
I like to be on the side of you should, just because of what it did for me. I feel like it helped me grow. But at the same time, that's what it did for me.
How did it help you grow?
I mean, the day your kid is born, you realize it's not about you anymore.
I'm so glad you said that.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I say 3 things happened when my daughter was born. I was no longer the most important person in my life.
Yeah.
It's not about you anymore.
Exactly.
I no longer wanted the center of the attention. I did not want to be the center of attention anymore. And I became an empath. I became more empathetic.
Yes.
Just because I can see people as toddlers now. Like, you're just a misguided toddler and I want to punch you in the face because your parents fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
But I also think that's why we have daughters. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Because, and that goes back to kind of like there has to be some kind of plan or some kind of spiritual realm that we're operating in, because I feel like if I had my first kid at 28, right?
Okay.
And so
I was 29. So.
If I had a son as a 28-year-old that had just gotten home from Iraq, would I wanted to raise him hard, make him tough?
Yeah. Would he have been a private for you?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question.
And I look back on that and I'm like, yeah, I would have, because I don't have a lot of tolerance for weak men.
Sure.
And that's just something because I've been surrounded my entire adult life by men who are capable. And so when I'm around weakness, it bothers me. And if it was my own DNA that was weak,
more bothered,
bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I might be like, we need to fucking take him to the cliff, you know,
to the well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But girls though, they're just I have a different perspective. It just has a different energy to it. Like if my girls are scared or afraid or unable to perform, I want to be right there to lift them up.
So yeah,
and encourage and build. And I just feel like I wasn't ready to have a boy. Maybe I am now, but my wife says we're fucking done. So
I'm cool with having a girl, man. And if we had more kids, I'm cool with all girls. Like I dig it.
Bro, they used to call that the Ranger curse.
Well, I think strong women require strong fathers.
Yeah, 100%.
I really do believe that. And I think women have a lot more, I hate to admit this, but I you know, they could take advantage of it, but women have the buying power. They have the purchasing power of the social contract.
Yeah.
They decide who they're going to fuck.
Yep.
Or else it's rape. So we don't. We go to the bar and we're like, all right, well, it's fucking 155. I better get something, you know. But women have the purchasing power. And so if strong men create strong daughters and strong women come up with their purchasing power, I've never been more influenced to change and better myself as a man than for a woman.
Yeah.
And so, and especially in my 20s, like I would change for women a lot more in my 20s than I would now. But that's a good growth and development time for men to do that. And so strong men creating strong daughters are changing who has the purchasing power for the next generation. So hopefully whatever comes after this fucking mess is going to have good women around that are going to not handle the bullshit of men acting with bad character.
Yeah.
Who don't have fathers like you that are going to kick their ass unfairly for being, you know, chumps.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know.
Now that's a really, dude, I'm glad that you just articulated that, because I've never thought of it like that. Yeah. The women perhaps have a better chance at changing the trajectory of humanity than the men.
Well, I think it's equal. It's just different.
We can walk out on the battlefield and fill each other with lead and chop each other's heads off. But like you said, they have more purchasing power on how the next generation is going to play out.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I
They
like
do.
that.
And the opportunity young men have, so women have the purchasing power and men have the opportunity to lead by example, way more than when women do. Women who lead by example in positions of leadership, our society tends to call them bitches. Like, oh, she's a tough bitch. Like, she's a CEO of a company, you know, she's heartless. And so, whereas men that do that are strong. And they're masculine, and it's a good trait. And so young men who can learn quickly to lead by example will find those strong women with the purchasing power, and they'll create good families and then the better generations. And then going back to what you said, if that's a piece of yourself that's living in the next generation, that's going to be an older soul than you were.
Yeah.
Your daughters are pieces of your fucking DNA, and they're going to do it again.
You know, what's funny is you say they're pieces of your DNA, and that can be traced back like through science, right?
100%.
Like you're her dad. But there was a part of me that was just recently thinking, is her soul a part of your soul too? So it's not just the physical aspect of who that person is, but are you actually perpetuating your own like energy and soul into another human and perpetuating life that way? And fuck, dude, like
I think it's true.
And it's funny how smoking marijuana for a long time, especially like we were in the Ranger Regiment where, the fucking losers smoke marijuana.
Yeah, dopeheads.
Yeah, fucking, it's going to make you lazy and it's a gateway drug. Bro.
That was me.
Since I got out of law enforcement and it's legal in Washington, I'm like, yeah, like, let's go. And I started using some marijuana products because of severe insomnia issues.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Did that help?
Dude, huge.
You don't get REM sleep. You wake up tired?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Okay.
I don't have it all figured out yet. You know what? That's a good segue into the next thing I'd like to get your perspective on.
Yeah.
But what I've realized is it unlocks your brain and opens you up to new ideas and new perspectives. Dude, me and my wife have had some of the most powerful conversations after hitting a joint a couple times. It's not like you're just fucking getting super stoned and being a piece of shit where like it's affecting your professional life or you're sleeping on the couch all day. No, we put the kids to bed, hit a joint a couple times, and now have these deeper conversations than we were having previously. And it makes me realize, this is what people are talking about when they're referencing plant medicine. It's like society thinks it's fine to sit down and drink whiskey until you can't stand up. But when I hit a joint, I feel like my brain is expanding and thinking clear and opening up to new ideas. That's fucking powerful, dude.
So what's interesting about that is when you hit a joint and you feel like your brain is expanding and thinking clearly, the government doesn't want to employ you because of that.
Yeah, bro.
Wrap your mind around that. And we're sober.
Isn't that nuts, dude?
So I got
or hey, I'll even fucking take it up a notch from there. There's still states where if you do that, they're going to put you in a cage like a zoo animal.
Take your freedoms from you.
Put you in a cage like a zoo animal.
And it grows like a weed and you can't touch it.
That doesn't make any sense,
fucking
dude.
Illegal.
Hey, the same thing with mushrooms.
Or tree bark, African tree bark. Same shit.
Yeah. So this actually arrived in the mail today.
Oh, nice.
And I don't even...
Weed?
No.
Is that federal?
No. I'm actually not smoking or drinking alcohol for the next 65 days, I think I have left from New Year's.
Resets are good, man.
Yeah, I just want to reset.
You do. And that's accountability. You're saying, I got to be accountable.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I started to just take a couple hits off a joint to help me sleep at night. And then it got to the point where it wasn't helping as much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I feel like my insomnia is coming back. This was kind of the reason why I started using this. Let's back away. Let's reset and let's try and figure things out.
Sure.
And so I was actually talking to the VA a couple of weeks ago. I said, hey, I had a counselor recommend that I have a sleep study done. Right. And I've heard of sleep studies, but I don't really know what they entail.
Yeah.
And so I got a phone call and they said, hey, because of COVID, you can't come in for sleep studies. We're doing them remotely now. So what? And so, yeah, we're going to send you a package in the mail.
Oh, sweet.
This came today. I don't even know what it is. It's from Idamar Medical. And it's called a Watch Pat Zone home sleep apnea test. And they said there's a code on this thing that I plug into my phone and it downloads the app. And then I haven't even opened the package yet. I don't know what this is, but I wear this and then it monitors my sleep. And then they're going to determine if it shows that I am having sleep issues, then you can come in and have like a more complete sleep study done. But
it's a prerequisite to
yeah, it's a prerequisite
because of COVID.
Because of COVID. But dude, like, so do you have insomnia issues?
Yeah. I have all kinds of sleep issues.
See, and that's the thing. Who in the Ranger Regiment doesn't have sleep issues?
Yeah, who goes to bed and gets 8 hours uninterrupted and wakes up feeling like $1 million?
It's bizarre.
Never.
Because is it related to PTSD? Is it just part of getting older? Is it part of having kids? Like, I don't know. Or is it like a conglomerate of all things? But dude, sometimes I'll sleep well and it comes and goes in cycles. And then other times I'm up all fucking night staring at the ceiling. Mad and exhausted. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like my eyes are burning and I can just feel that like, oh man, like I need to fall asleep and I can't.
Yeah.
And bro, when you have to get up the next day after staring at your ceiling all night and then
an hour
and then go do life, it's a fucking nightmare, dude. And so CBD and marijuana really help with that. But I feel like, just like we've touched on so many times on this podcast, you can always do better.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to get the sleep study done and see what they say. It sounds like the VA is starting to be more open to like plant medicine.
They
right?
actually approved. I haven't confirmed this, but when I got out of the military, I did the GI Bill and I was like, I'm going to study cognitive neuroscience. I want to see how the brain works. My dad had a heart attack. He ended up living, but his brain damage was really bad. He had a hypoxic brain injury. So low oxygen to the brain, just like when you choke a dude out, but you let him breathe. Anyways, it fascinated me about the human brain and how neurons and the nervous system work. And that led me to psychedelic drugs. And marijuana is considered a psychedelic, and is it a class 1? Am I right? Federally?
Yes.
It's just as bad as cocaine and heroin.
Yeah,
federally?
that's right.
Bullshit.
Well, I mean, that's on the books. It is.
Yeah, on
paper.
But
when I was with the feds in 2014, they said, "Hey, stop all investigations on marijuana."
Fuck yeah, that's Roger that.
And that was in California, but that was pushed out from the agency.
That's
you know
good.
what I mean?
That's really good.
Yeah, I thought that was good too.
What I learned with psychedelic drugs, all of them across the board, no matter how intense they are. Have you ever programmed a universal remote?
No, Jenny does that stuff.
You're killing it, bro.
Yeah.
You got daughter making breakfast and she's programming the TV. So when you do it, you have to hold down a button and then a light starts blinking. And that means this thing is programmable. And then you have to find the code and program it. And then your TV will talk to your remote.
Got it.
So the way I look at psychedelic drugs, and I hope if someone hears this, they could be like, oh, this is wrong or right. But when you take a psychedelic drug, you're entering a programmable space. You're making yourself programmable. So if you're going to sit down stoned and you're going to watch fucking Netflix, you're programming yourself with garbage. If you're going to get stoned and you're going to go sit there on YouTube or Twitter, or if you're going to start swiping right or left on chicks, like you're just programming garbage into your brain. But if you get stoned and you go sit and you meditate, you're programming yourself. Mm-hmm. So you throw yourself in a sauna for 30 minutes and your brain is just relaxed. You're in a programmable mode. And then it goes the same thing. You talk about mushrooms or anything up the psychedelic ladder. You're allowing yourself, and so going back to the VA, you're allowing yourself to revisualize things and create new neural pathways. So PTSD studies with psychedelic drugs, what they're doing, and I heard the VA is going to start doing this, is they'll give someone MDMA or psilocybin mushrooms, or they used to do cancer patients, they'd give them LSD. Mm-hmm. So these are terminally ill patients, and they're giving them LSD, and they're living through the fact that they're going to die, and they're finding peace.
That helps them come to terms with it.
They're coming to terms. They're reprogramming themselves. And so
it's fucking awesome, dude.
Well, it's a fucking threat to the government is what it is. And not only is it a fucking threat to the government, but then you start looking at studies.
Well, what do you mean exactly by that?
We're all programmed, man.
You're saying it's going to just create more free thinkers.
It's going to create more free thinkers. And when you create free thinkers, you create authentic people. Mm-hmm. And when you create authentic people, you create people that go out and lead by example and say, fuck this stuff. It's tyranny.
Yeah.
And that's not what they need.
Man, it's crazy how it's all tied together.
And it's also crazy because it's easy to tie stuff together. So if it's that easy to tie together, it could just be speculation and bullshit, but it ties together really well. That's a nice square knot right there.
Yeah.
So
I like that you said that though. It could all be bullshit because I always want to check myself because I feel myself getting pulled onto the fringes of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, is this legitimately something to be concerned about? Or have I just seen too many Instagram stories saying like Nancy Pelosi did this and now I'm fucking fixated on it.
Yeah.
But is that really going to change? Like, should I be giving energy into the things that I can't affect? You know, like I always have to have that conversation with myself, but I've arrived at a point lately where I have to be giving energy into the current state of our country, because if I'm an ostrich and I put my head in the sand and things pop off and I didn't take it serious and I wasn't prepared, dude, you could be fucked very quickly.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah. So control the controllables, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Control the controllables. But at the same time, there's some things that are going out of control that I don't have control over, but that doesn't mean I can't get control over them.
Or prepare yourself in a manner to where you can now have as much control as you can.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we talked about right before we started recording, being former Rangers and having a tactical background. A lot of people are hungry for that right now. They're reaching out to us and say, hey, teach me. And so that alone proves to me that there's a lot of validity to this, because you got people that have never purchased a firearm or have never been in a fight that are like, teach me to shoot and teach me jiu-jitsu. So what's going on?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I have a guy that we're doing some tactical training and consulting and helping him get weapons and arm his family. And him and his wife, like, she's uncomfortable with the guns in the house still, and they've never had them. And now this guy's like, I got a fucking AK-47. I was like, hell yeah, you do. and we're doing it. I'm filming him. And so we talked about this as well, with age and wisdom, and looking back on all the training I had. I've learned so much more in this last year about what I learned as a Ranger than I did as a Ranger.
Yeah.
And so like I'm filming this guy as I'm training him, and I'm creating game film, and I'm like, let's see when you shoot in that firing position, let's see how much deviation you have from a straight neutral spine position. And he's a chiropractor, so he gets it.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, you can shoot from that firing position effectively with a 7.62 round standing, and you smoked that target at 20 feet. I was like, that's your fight. If you're going to shoot someone that's going to be within 20 feet most of the time, I think.
Well, statistically, that's the case.
Yeah,
inside of America,
in a revolutionary or Civil War area, any type of warfare that's causing all these liberals to come up and say, I'm not a liberal, but I need guns. Like, the warfare they're preparing for is a close fight.
Yeah,
and that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. A close fight for the untrained.
Yeah.
Hopefully for us, it's at 300
Keep
yards.
Them at 300 on steel, baby. But yeah, so what's interesting is these people are arming themselves, which goes back to what you said of there must be something to it, because these people who would never usually do this are now becoming.
Yeah, it kind of validates my feelings. Like, I'm not the crazy one.
I don't think you're the
Because,
crazy
dude, I have to look at myself and ask, are you the crazy one?
Am I overreacting?
Yeah, I do that all the time, man. I do that all the time.
That self-consciousness, man, that insecurity about, am I just being a psycho? You running around yelling about Reiki crystals and everyone thinks I'm bad shit crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, there's something to it.
But yeah, I mean, there was a point, I mean, I fucking sat in bed with Jenny and cried because I'm like, this conflict is going to cost me my life.
I'm going to die for this. I will die for this flag. We can't throw away the
well, no, and that's the thing. And I had a belief structure in my 20s that maybe it was flawed looking back on it. Did I owe the Iraqi people my life, like, for their freedom? Like, that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a good one.
But regardless of what I believed, I was willing to give my life for it.
Yep.
And that was part of being a Ranger. Like, we understood, hey, I'm this deployment, I might not be coming back from. And I feel like I've gotten away from that as I've moved away from combat and deployments. And then I came to a realization, and this was just a few months ago. I was like, fuck, the war is coming again. And being someone that wants to be a leader and be on the front of it and be the person that's ready to defend my community and my family, there's a good chance I'm getting fucking whacked.
Yeah.
And it's like, my whole life I thought I'd die in combat. And as soon as I put that behind me, like literally put that behind me through therapy.
It's at your door.
It's in my door again. And it's like, damn, am I just getting myself all spun up, or is this what the future holds for me? And who knows, right? But fuck, dude.
It's never looked as bad as it does now.
Yeah.
For being at home.
And so, and I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but I'll touch base on it again because I think it's important. I've been talking to my friends about this stuff. Guys like you and me that have been there, done that feel that, like, the brink of war again, right? And I talked to a guy who's a CAG operator, most tactical dude I know. He is the guy that I will follow to hell.
Blindly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Without a second dot.
Yeah.
I'll tell you stuff offline that it's just fucking blow your mind, right? And I was talking to him like 2 days ago, and he goes, hey man, we're in a phase that we as unit guys refer to as being tactically patient.
Okay, roger that.
He goes, that's where we're at. We're in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you better have your mags loaded.
He goes, you better have your fucking mags loaded. That's exactly what he said. Like, because,
I gotta do some
yeah. And then he said to me,
I'm not prepared, man.
well, and one thing that everybody keeps asking me is like, and it's funny because I get hit up on Instagram. Like, I have the answers. Like, hey,
what's going to happen?
When do we do this? Or when do we stand up? When do we fight back? And it's like, dude, this is all new to me too. I'm just a fucking dude living in America. And my buddy told me, I was talking to him about that, and he goes, when the tipping point occurs, there will be no questions and there will be no doubt that it is time to act.
And violence of action, I think, will be incredibly important at that moment.
And he goes, so don't worry about when the moment's coming, because when the moment comes, you will 100% know
there's no hesitation.
That there is no hesitation.
That's so good. Yeah.
And he goes, but I want you to think of it. He goes, I want you to think of this. If a guy like you or a guy like me who has a lot of experience and who has a lot of capabilities, if you jump the gun and you go try and confront some rally of Antifa in Portland and it escalates and you shoot somebody, he goes, we're still in the phase where you end up either killed by the police or put in a cage.
You're out of the fight.
You're out of the fight.
Fuck, dude.
He goes, you can't take dudes like us can't be taken out of the fight. So you have to be tactically patient. You have to be smart, and you have to wait until there's enough civil unrest to, if we do take the fight to some people, they don't have the manpower or the resources to come after us.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, that's why you're you, and that's why I'm me.
That's why Rangers get smoked when they get DUIs, because it takes them out of the fucking fight.
Yeah.
Puts them in the jail cell, dude.
Dude, that's a great analogy.
That's exactly why they get smoked for DUIs, man. And so, wow.
So yeah, don't go out and get a Ranger DUI.
Dude.
And it's funny you say that. I mean, I remember we had a squad leader get a DUI like 24 hours before we deployed to Afghanistan.
Oh, shit.
And bro, we're like, our shit's palletized. We're getting ready to go wheels up. And he went and decided to fucking have drinks with his girl or whatever. RFS'd the day before we deployed to Afghanistan. The day before. So fucking A.
I thought they were going to sweep it under the rug.
Nope.
Wow.
RFS. And it was like, hey,
squad leader,
E5 so-and-so, you're now squad leader. Let's go. And
how was that deployment?
That was a good deployment, dude.
Good for that E5, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of step up and swing.
That was a deployment. I mean, we were QRF out of Kandahar.
Sick.
For the entire 3 months. So there's a couple cool nights, but overall is working out and being bored.
Yeah, just waiting on standby.
Yeah, you know.
Did you sit on the flight line a lot or no?
All fucking day, every day.
Ugh.
That's all we did.
Yeah.
Kit all ready to go. You have your body armor, your weapons,
just
and
bring a book.
Yeah, and straight up, dude, working out and reading.
Yeah.
And we got
cool deployment though.
We got mobilized 2 or 3 times in 90 days. Huh. So it was like fucking boring.
You were buff and well learned.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fucking funny.
But it's interesting that you make that correlation, because that's exactly right. You don't want to be the guy that got the DUI the night before game day.
Yeah.
And if you get fucking thrown in jail for fucking kicking the shit out of some Antifa fucker.
Yeah. I want to too.
Yeah, that takes you out of the fight, you know?
Fuck those guys. You had mentioned something about fighting in Iraq. And I've had a lot of thoughts about this since getting out, is what was my motivation for war? Because I wasn't married.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the motivation of, I'm going to make it back home to my family. And I didn't have the motivation of, I'm here for the Afghani people. That wasn't a thing. Although when I joined, I thought I need to join the military because 9/11 sucked ass and I need to go protect my country.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. What I've come to was I was motivated to go kill fools because of the dudes on my left and right that were motivated to do it for me. So it was my community.
I actually love that you said that, because I've correlated combat many times to a football game.
Okay.
You know, like young men like competition. And I didn't grow up as an athlete because I was skating and partying and fucking.
You're a skater kid?
Yeah, I was one of the kids that did everything. I worked out with the jocks.
Yeah.
And then I'd go skate behind.
You had tons of friends.
Yeah, I'd go skate with the skaters, and then I'd go smoke with the stoners. Oh yeah. And like that was just kind of, I like to roll everywhere, right?
I was the fat version of you, much worse at skating. Yeah.
But and I was also in a metal band, so I played guitar with the guys. So
I got a jam.
Yeah, we're gonna, dude. But as I got older and fitter and started to kind of come and become like a young man, like there's something about competition that is appealing. And so, I mean, that's why guys fight. I've fought in cages. I went and done that shit. Like, what's a cage fight going to feel like? Okay. Yeah. Well, I almost got knocked out one time, so that wasn't cool. Or, oh, hey, I fucking submitted this guy and strangled him. That felt fucking amazing, right?
Yeah.
There's something about that that's just powerful. And I don't know.
Primal.
Yeah, it's primal, right? Bro, and that's all combat is. Like, I remember being on rooftops, and I've been very open about my combat on this show. I haven't killed very many people. If I had to guess, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say 6, 7.
And then do you ever have to differentiate like who I know I killed and who we all shot at the same time? And it's like dibs.
Okay, so
mine.
I was just gonna say,
you're on a gun team.
Anyone that says, "Oh, I got 17 kills in Iraq,"
confirmed.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
Because every combat engagement I've been in, you shoot someone and they duck back behind a wall.
Yep.
Like they kind of, I've seen dudes slump and then they fucking run down an alleyway and that's a lot. Did I just clip him?
Is that one of your 17?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
Or is that guy completely fine? Maybe I missed.
Did you ever have an opportunity? And then, so this is what I saw a lot is.
Well, here, before we go into that, so either you don't know the outcome of it, or when you do know the outcome of it, just like you said, 3 of your buddies were shooting at him too.
Yeah. And I saw a gun.
Yeah. So guess what? You don't know. There's so much like, combat is convoluted, man.
Well, and I think it's the way people talk about it because of the stigma. They don't hear how we would talk about it. Yeah. It's convoluted. That's a great way of putting it. Convoluted combat.
And so what were you going to say now?
Well, what I was going to say is like also like the guy that pops up on the wall, you have a fire team that ready ups that fool to include 2 saw gunners, maybe both fire teams, if a squad fires on him.
Yep.
So then the guy goes down behind the wall and now you have to online go forward and clear through the enemy. So now there's a guy who was shot by 6 people sputtering behind a wall and you put him out of his misery before you walk past him. Is that your kill?
Yeah. I mean, whose kill is that?
Yeah, that guy's intestines are leaking on his heart and you just shot him in the face to do him a favor so it's not a war crime. Is that your kill? You know what's funny is you're talking about like we were literally trained as Rangers, okay? You're conducting your ambush, okay? And then you get online, you walk across until you hit your LOA. Yeah.
And you double tap people.
Everybody.
Like if I'm walking over a guy and the LOA is your limit of advance. So you walk until a predetermined spot where you get back down and now you reassess what your next move is, right? And anybody you cross on that, they get double tapped, meaning they get shot in the back of the head as they're laying on the ground. That's what we are taught. That is in military doctrine.
Yep.
And then I saw people in Iraq getting prosecuted for that shit, dude.
Yeah, they changed. We weren't even allowed to teach privates the term double tap in my generation of Rangering.
What do they call controlled pairs?
Controlled pair.
You're putting 2 bullets in the back of someone's head to kill them. Call it whatever the fuck you want.
One in each eyeball, baby. Just fucking send them home. Yeah, that's crazy.
And isn't it nuts? I remember seeing, and that's part of the problem of like social media and phones is combat footage is getting out. Because the military used to control. I mean, the people that had cameras were soldiers. So what was seen outside of the combat zones was controlled, right?
Combat cam, yeah.
Yeah, and that's good and it's bad because I like having like transparency. Sure. I think it's good for Americans. Hey, we're over there killing people. Maybe you should see this and feel what it's like a little bit through a lens of an iPhone. But then the other side of it is you're going to have people armchair quarterbacking you. Like, I can't believe he shot that guy. He was already down. It's like, yeah, he was already down, but the objective wasn't cleared.
Yeah.
Therefore, he's still an enemy combatant.
Yep.
Like, I'm not taking that guy prisoner when we don't know what's around the other corner.
What's on his vest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. Armchair quarterbacking. Yeah. I hate that shit.
But the worst part about armchair quarterbacking is our political structure will bow to it. Mm. If the pressure is hard enough, they'll be like, hey, let's go ahead and indict those guys on charges.
Like Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
All the armchair quarterback. And I had buddies, people that I was working with in their homes. They're like, what do you think of Kyle Rittenhouse? And I was like, I think that showed the world that you could be slightly overweight and untrained with a rifle that's probably not zeroed that great.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to aim down your fucking sights at night.
You can take the fight.
You point that barrel into that motherfucker's chest and you pull the trigger and you can take the fight to the enemy effectively and take 3 people out that deserved it.
That deserved it. I love that.
And that's amazing. But armchair quarterbacking that shit, like people think like, oh, he shouldn't have done this.
Bro, I got in arguments with people that I consider friends.
Over that?
Over that.
Wow.
She's like, you think it was a friend of mine, and I love her, but we have vastly different political views. And she's like, Greg, how in the hell can you support murder over property?
By defining murder differently.
Yeah. And she goes, those people were looting and taking property. That doesn't equate to taking somebody's life. And I was like, well, that's where we're different, because if someone comes into my house with fucking evil intentions, I don't care if it's to put their hands on my daughter or fucking steal my shit. You are fucking dead.
They don't have the right
to victimize me.
To victimize you and expect you to have the patience to find out they're not a physical threat before you protect your family.
That's exactly
right.
They
don't get
right
that
there.
fucking right at all.
And so,
not in my country.
I mean, the Rittenhouse thing, fuck, dude. Should a 17-year-old should he have been there with a fucking rifle?
That's a parent issue.
I was just going to say, if that was my 17-year-old, I wouldn't be happy about that.
I'd kick his ass.
Yeah, But what happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the dudes he shot hit him with a fucking skateboard.
Yeah, and the other dude was pulling out a pistol.
I'm pulling out a pistol.
And he's a felon.
Like, dude, what are we talking about here? One guy has already shown, dude, if you're hitting me with a skateboard, you are showing me that this is a deadly force encounter.
Oh, because I have a gun.
Yeah. But if I didn't have a gun,
still
getting hit in the head with a skateboard suggests you were trying to kill me.
Yep.
It's not like I'm in a bar and I bumped into your chick and you punched me in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't get to kill you in that encounter. No. I just get to fuck you up. Like we have,
I love you, dude.
But I'm saying, like, I don't see, there's not two sides to this. One guy's pointing a gun at him and the other is hitting him in the head with a skateboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's game time. Yeah. And then you guys lost.
Yep.
So now what?
Yeah.
Like, what if that dude got that round off first and killed Kyle Rittenhouse? I bet the left would have supported him.
Yeah. He's a hero.
Yeah. That guy was a right-wing wacko that was going to massacre people.
TikTok videos everywhere for him. Yeah.
Fucking nuts, man.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, dude, that dude is a hero.
Yes.
Did you see he like went to some rally? The guy that had his bicep blown off?
Oh, that guy? I thought you were talking about Kyle.
Oh, no. Well, I'm saying it facetiously. He's not a hero. He's a fucking piece of shit.
Oh, he's a hero to society.
He's a hero to the left. He was at a rally, like holding, one arm was all in a sling, the other arm he was holding it up and being like, blah, 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 like, and he wasn't articulate and he wasn't enjoyable to listen to, but because he got shot, he's our guy. Yeah. Let's listen to him.
He's empowered.
I hate that. It's fucking pathetic, dude. Man, we've circled around all kinds of fucking stuff.
It's good. That's a good talk.
This has been fun.
Absolutely.
I think we're like 2 hours and 40 minutes already.
What do you shoot for when you do this?
2 to 3 hours.
Because you've been doing this for almost a year. Coming up in the springtime.
Not
summer?
Quite a year. But this is going to be episode 29.
Oh,
so
wow.
29 weeks because I do one a week.
Okay.
So that's how long I've been at it.
Yeah.
So a little over half a year.
And you said you shoot for 2 or under, 2 hours or less?
No, 2 to 3.
Oh, okay, cool.
I don't want to put something out that's less than, say, an hour. Sometimes I have short ones that are about an hour, but I feel like the podcasting experience, and I just have to look at it from what I like to listen to.
Sure.
I like to feel like I'm part of a conversation with people.
Yeah. And I nod my head a lot when I listen to it.
Even though I'm in a car, I feel like I'm sitting down with Joe Rogan and Andy Stump.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I can only create a product that makes me think this is what I would enjoy, Okay. And it's funny, when I was driving out to Andy Stump's house in Kalispell a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to him on the way out there, right? Because a long ass drive from Seattle to Kalispell. And dude, I felt like it was him and 2 of his SEAL buddies, and they were talking about deployments and all this killing dudes. And I was like, dude, I was in that conversation with you guys.
Yeah.
Like that's why podcasting is so powerful. Because, off air, me and Andy were talking, and I was like, bro, that is why you're so successful. Because when you push play on your podcast, it's not necessarily like this, like Jocko is always educational.
Yep.
It's like, I'm going to talk to you guys about leadership or about this book that I think will make you a better person.
He's motivating, man.
And it's very good. I like Jocko's stuff too. But Andy's is like, I'm in a room with my friends. And that's cool, man.
Yep.
And I think the reason why people are so into the podcast scene lately is because just real, authentic conversations, that's not part of people's lives anymore. No. We're waking up, we're driving the kids to school, we're going to work, we're making food, we're doing this, we're doing that. Whereas like the human experience back in the day is like, dude, we go on a hunt together and then we sit around the campfire and we fucking interact.
Yeah. And then we sit down with our wives at night and we cry and we talk.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Life out for our families.
Like we were a lot more connected to other human beings.
Yeah.
I feel as the connection gets stripped away, certain media like podcasting starts to become more powerful because it's like, okay, I'm not sitting around the campfire with my tribe, but I found this guy who I like his perspectives.
Yeah.
I think he has good insight. Okay, I'm going to push play and I'm going to fill that void with words from other people, you know?
Well, and speaking back and forth, so I think writing and speaking are the two ultimate ways of thinking on the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Because we think all the time to ourselves, but until we start talking to other people or talking out loud to ourselves, we're not articulating our thoughts in a way for the masses to understand.
Yeah.
But when I'm explaining something to you or vice versa, we're having to articulate our thoughts that are authentic clearly, so not only that you and I can understand it, but anyone that's listening can. So it's an ultimate form of critical thinking is to speak or write.
And one thing that I've really enjoyed about this journey of podcasting, and I've had a lot of my friends who have been guests on the show say this to me, like, I don't care if one fucking person listens to this.
Sure.
I feel closer with you
Yeah.
over these last 2 hours or whatever it's been, you know?
Absolutely.
And that in itself is powerful because how often do you and one of your friends sit at a table that's 4 feet across from each other, look at each other and say like, talk about deep and important things? It's not a normal part of your life.
No.
Like we don't schedule this, but now because this is part of what I'm doing professionally, I literally schedule it, text you, hey man, can you meet me at 11 o'clock tomorrow? Yes.
Yep.
And now here we are hashing out a bunch of cool shit that would be just as powerful if we were doing it at my fire pit. But we just don't make the time for that like we used to.
Well, and we need to be building that in the community and we talked about accountability, leadership. And then the last thing I'd mentioned was organizing.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the fire pit, like I'm trying to get men together. Like we're doing a breakfast for men in our community every second Saturday of the month because I want like-minded leaders to come to my home, have a cup of coffee, eat breakfast, and tell me what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Because I've been focusing on the mass thing, the global thing, all this bullshit that's going on. But it's like, okay, well, it's going to happen. When the tip's here, well, you're going to know it's going to happen.
Yep.
So have your mags ready. But now we need to bring in the leaders of our community and say, well, this is where the fight's going to be.
Yeah.
In our county, in our neighborhoods. So who's on your street, you know?
And those conversations are going on more often than most people know.
Well, and I'm finding all these little groups out in Machias, they're doing it. Out here, they're doing it. And I'm like, okay, we need to organize.
Yep.
So we can communicate. That's good.
And
that's leadership.
Again, this is something that I've talked about a lot on the show. It's like, you got to find your fire team, man. And then we have to, I realized quickly, everybody wants to be part of your fire team.
So especially if you have any experience.
And that's also not sustainable.
No.
And one thing that Mike Glover said when I went out to Prescott and talked to him, he's like, platoon size element. He goes, anything bigger than a platoon size element, good luck having any type of like command and control over.
So he's talking like 4 10-man squads? Like,
yeah.
Wow.
And he said, and I really like his brain and the way he analyzes things and the way he like the plans and the contingency he comes up with. But he's like, anything bigger than that is going to become like too convoluted. And like, think about a company size element.
That's huge.
You have a company commander, you have a first sergeant, and then you have platoon sergeants that are intimately connected to those company level leaderships that can kind of command how that element works. We're not going to have that kind of continuity and just a bunch of dudes from Machias. So what he recommends, and which I think is brilliant, is you develop your platoon size element that is autonomous and does what it feels it needs to do for the safety of the families of the people in that platoon size element. And then you do have communication with the other elements. It's not just a black hole outside of there. You do know who your friendlies are to your north and your south.
Sure.
But we're not operating on the same, like our operational tempo is not based on what the other guy's doing. It's based on our needs.
100%. So I'm in all these different group texts on Signal, Telegram, and you name it. And I'm watching these groups, these patriotic groups of 20 to 50 people, just ego blows through them. And then pretty soon you're just watching so-and-so left the group, so-and-so left the group. And then these 20 to 40 people groups are down to 4 people.
Uh-huh.
And it's because they're lacking organization and leadership.
These
are guys that have never done this.
Yep.
They work in FedEx and shit. and they're just patriots. And so I'm trying to find squad leaders pretty much.
Yeah.
Like if I could get 4 to 5 people who can manage 10 to 12 people, then those 4 to 5 people, we just meet up and we're like, what are your guys like? Like, what are you doing? And it's hard. It's interesting, but yeah, a platoon size element is a tough one to manage too. I think.
For sure. Yeah. And that's why he says it at max.
Max. Yeah.
You know,
I couldn't.
And that is,
I never made it that high.
That is incumbent on having a structure and having some competent squad leaders and team leaders, you know?
Yeah.
But the other side of it is, like, because I've been invited to some of those secret church meetings, and like I've been pulled into some very interesting meetings. I'll tell you more details off air. But I've shown up to some, and I got 65-year-old ladies that are like, I want to be part of what you guys are doing, and I want you to train me up, and I want to learn to shoot my pistol, my .38 revolver. And I'm not a big enough dick to be like, you're not part of my team.
Yeah, you're not.
You bring no value. You bring, I shouldn't say, that's a arrogant thing to say. That woman probably brings lots of value in certain aspects of life.
Yeah.
She doesn't bring value in a CQB environment, running through the streets, wearing body armor, kicking down doors.
No, she creates a medevac.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's nothing against her. That's why we have physical standards in the military and age restrictions.
100%.
To prevent medevacs.
And not only is that applicable to that, I use her as an example because when she was telling me like she wanted to learn to shoot and stuff, I was just thinking like, geez, like, what am I doing here? I'm in the wrong spot, you know? But a lot of the men that think that they're ready to be part of it, they got beer bellies and it's like, if you can't run a mile in kit, you're probably not ready for the fight.
No.
That's it, man. And that's not me. And I've even been chastised about that. I've had people be like, dude, this isn't Game of Thrones. We're not fighting with axes.
Yeah, but I'm not going to die and you are.
Yeah.
So I don't care what movie you want to relate this to, motherfucker.
So, just because you have a rifle that can shoot someone at 400 meters, just like you said, combat can get up and close and personal, and you can be fucking buddy dragging a dude across the street, running up 2 flights of stairs. Like, and not only is it, that would be physically hard if you went and did it at my CrossFit gym this afternoon. Now put the adrenaline of gunfire, people screaming,
dude
people dying.
In front of you.
Yeah. Dude, your fucking gas tank, I feel like your gas tank is half of what it is.
I think that's a fair.
Yeah.
Half is fair.
Isn't that crazy?
So put it in this perspective. I just thought of this while you were talking. That woman talking to you, that's the equivalent of a private walking up to a senior squad leader or a platoon sergeant and saying, I want to be in the fight and I want to do this. And so you're thinking, okay, I can't be rude to this woman, but it's like, what would you tell a private in that situation? A brand new private that's not in the best shape of their life.
Yeah, say you're going to be on perimeter where I tell you you're going to be.
We need to find someone between me and you to manage you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Very true.
That's what I would do. You're not coming up to a platoon sergeant and telling him you want to be in a fight. That's how you get punched in the face.
Yeah. And it was a bizarre experience to see, like, all of these people had these different ideas of where we need to be, what we need to be doing. And some of the people there were like, I also want to build an allegiance with the local sheriff's department. And I want to like get what we're doing on the books with them. So in the event it goes south, they know who we are and they know this and they know that. And I'm like, nope, no, a whole lot of nope.
Nothing for that.
Nothing. Like if it's to the point where guys like us are defending our families with force, I don't answer to anybody.
No.
Period.
No.
Other than
chain of command.
Other than the chain of command that we established.
Exactly.
You know?
And to 100% faithfulness.
Yeah, dude.
That's it.
So
that's the rules of war. Sheriff's department. They'll know. They'll know what they're, put it in this perspective. I used to always think as a soldier, when I was a Ranger, I was like, if we were to be attacked here in the U.S., I know my chain of command would say you can't just go to your family and abandon your soldier duties. Like they're going to keep you, they're going to lock you on post.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fucking leave because my duty's to my family. So I often think about the sheriff's department or the cops. These guys, if shit kicks off, you think they're going to go respond to work at 05 the next morning? Or you think they're going to be like, okay, honey, like pack the car. We're going to Idaho.
Bro.
Run.
I knew guys that were cops during Katrina down in New Orleans. Some of that was even happening then.
Oh, so
to where like patrol level officers are like, you know what? I got to make sure that my family is safe, and we're taking the measures to do that. And that took precedence over fucking
patrol,
being on your fucking beat, you know?
Yeah.
So, man, this has been a fun show. I feel like we could go on for a couple
I'll
more
keep
hours,
talking,
but let's save it for next time. A couple things before we wrap this up. You brought me a gift today when you showed up.
Yeah.
And for those of you that aren't watching, this is the Mill X high smoke output.
Oh yeah,
That's I got a smoke grenade for a gift. I love this because I actually.
What better gift to give a fucking combat tested, barrel chested freedom fighter than a 45-second red smoke grenade?
So I thought
thick too.
So
It's
smokes
good
aren't
quality.
controlled items then, huh?
No.
I like that. I don't know why I thought that they would be.
I thought so too, but the guy that got them for me proved me wrong.
So yeah, maybe if you know where to get more, maybe it's time to fucking load up on smokes. Because smokes, like the military uses smokes for lots of different things, for concealment, for marking an LZ, you know. But it's not like we're going to throw that and fucking run through it to enter a building. More likely, it's like, hey, I'm over here and it's go time because we don't have comms.
Yeah.
Or we're marking a location, you know?
So I originally got them because they were locking down freeways with protesters. And
you're just going to fucking...
My idea was if that happens, if I'm coming up on a line of people, I can get out of there without putting myself in jail by dropping a smoke so they can't see my car.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you can make any kind of noise behind the smoke and it's going to scare them. I'm not going to say what you could do to make noise, but fire superiority is fire superiority.
That's right.
And you fucking pop smoke. And I get my toddler out of the fight. If I want to go back to the fight, that's on me, but I wouldn't, you know. And so I originally was like, smoke is a great way.
So you
for me
use the term pop smoke when you're literally talking about popping smoke, which is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, but it's a great thing, man. And yeah, I had 2 of them in my garage. And I was like, 1 man with 2 smoke grenades is not nearly as effective as 2 men with 1.
Yeah.
So I was like, what a great gift to bring a Ranger buddy, right?
Fuck yeah, I dig it. All right, so I'm gonna return the favor and give you a couple gifts. This is my cured CBD, and they're obviously they're a sponsor of the show, so I get shit to give out. But all the sponsors on this show are companies that I dig and companies I stand behind.
Of course.
And so that's like their little trial sample of their CBD, and then that's the balm, which is awesome.
The balm?
Balm.
This one.
It's like a balm that you rub on your muscles when they're sore. It's infused with CBD. It's like that's like a giant chapstick.
Oh man, this will be killer.
Yeah, that stuff's awesome, man. And then I don't know.
Thank you.
Do you like cigars?
I just learned how to smoke them the right way for the first time at 30.
Well, maybe
I used to inhale.
We need to sit down and smoke some of these cigars then, because whenever I get shit like sent to me, there's people out there that like are supporting what I'm doing, and I get a lot of stuff in the mail. It's pretty cool, right?
Of course.
And this came in the mail, and it's a company called Gadsden Cigars, American made, and they sent it in this cool wood box. And then he sent me a message on Instagram too. It's like, hey man, I sent you a box. And so when that happens, I like to give guys shout outs and just support their company a little bit. And I got a whole box of them. And I'm not a cigar connoisseur yet. Maybe I will be.
Yeah, I'm open-minded though.
But yeah, I just wanted to give you a couple of their cigars. They're supporting the show, so I'd like to give them a shout out and support them as well. It's pretty cool.
Gadsden. Yeah, in the box, I was reading I actually really liked the box. It said something about being like wrapped in a Cuban or something cool like that.
Yeah, it says 50 gauge Cuban seed, hand rolled in the USA.
Yeah.
And I'll hold it up. Wrong camera. Hold it up to that camera. People can see it. But other than that, you got anything else to wrap this up?
No, man. I think we hit a lot.
We did, man. That was fun.
Talk.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll do it again. Thanks for coming out, man. And we'll see you guys next time.